From Studio 401, it's the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on The Fringe FM. I'm Vance Nesbitt, and here's our headlines. Thousands of people have taken a Facebook pledge to storm Area 51 in Nevada to see them aliens. Over 300,000 people have signed onto a Facebook event pledging to raid Area 51 in Nevada in quest to see them aliens. The event, titled Storm Area 51, They Can't Stop All of Us, is inviting users from around the world to join a Naruto run, a Japanese manga-inspired running style featuring arms outstretched backwards and heads forward into the area. We can move faster than their bullets, the event page, which clearly is written with tongue-in-cheek, promises those who RSVP for September 20th. And what is it that they're after? The mysterious Area 51 has been the focus of conspiracy theories for decades, and many people think it's where the U.S. government stores its secrets about aliens and UFOs. The area was officially acknowledged as a military site back in 2013, but the theories live on. Though the September event is most likely a joke, it comes just a few weeks after a group of U.S. senators was briefed about reported encounters between the U.S. Navy and unidentified aircraft. Literally, unidentified flying objects. So what do they know? Source, CNN. And Americans' opinions on UFOs has been explored in an enlightening pair of new polls. With UFOs consistently making mainstream media headlines this year, one might wonder what the general public currently thinks of the enigmatic phenomena, and a pair of recently conducted polls on the subject does seem to shed some light on the matter. The first survey, conducted by Rasmussen, asked 1,000 Americans a variety of questions concerning unidentified flying objects. Perhaps the most noteworthy result from the poll is that 61% indicated that they believe that intelligent life likely exists on other planets. While many of the UFO stories we've seen in the last year have centered around Navy pilots reporting UFOs and the potential dangers associated with those encounters, the respondents to the particular poll did not seem too concerned with that issue. To that end, a mere 12% of the people surveyed said they believe unidentified flying objects are a threat to national security, as compared to a sizable 61% who do not. One additional interesting insight from the poll is that only 11% of the respondents said they had either seen a UFO or know someone who did, while a whopping 80% answered in the negative. Source, Tim Binnall. And let's slide right into this edition's fun fact. Although GPS is free for the world to use, it does cost $2 million a day to operate. And that money comes from you and me and the American taxpayer. Thanks for listening to the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on the Fringe FM. Again, I'm Vance Nesbitt, news anchor and sorcerer.
They say we only use a fraction of our brain's true potential. Now, that's when we're awake. When we're asleep, our mind can do almost anything. Now, in a dream, our mind continuously does this. We create and perceive our world simultaneously, and our mind does this so well that we don't even know what's happening. That allows us to get right in the middle of that process.
How?
By taking over the creating part. Well, dreams, they feel real while we're in them, right? It's only when we wake up that we realize something was actually strange. Let me ask you a question. You never really remember the beginning of a dream, do you? You always wind up right in the middle of what's going on.
I guess, yeah.
So how did we end up here?
Well, we just came from the,
Think about it, Ariadne. How did you get here? Where are you right now?
We're dreaming?
You're actually in the middle of the workshop right now, sleeping. This is your first lesson in shared dreaming. Stay calm. never just a dream, is it? It feels real.
That's why the military is doing.
Message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS speed rescue.
Roger, nice to be in orbit. The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Broadcasting from a shack on a hill from the moon. I just wanted to say that once. No, from the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void, and I'm your host, Joe Root. Thank you so much for joining us tonight on the broadcast. We are live on the Fringe FM. It is Tuesday night, July the 16th on into the 17th. And tonight we're going to go deep into the realm of lucid dreaming with author and speaker Robert Waggoner. That is coming up here in just a moment. This show is brought to you by GetTheT.com. The webinar is 2 weeks from now, almost 2 weeks from now. Make sure you go sign up for that at GetTheT.com. And this show is also brought to you by Ancient Life Oil, AncientLifeOil.com. The best CBD oil on the planet, and PrepareWithTheFringe.com. Thank you all for the new supporters. A big shout out to Genevieve for helping us take care of the shack. And if you're listening anywhere besides the U.S., thank you. But we're extremely jealous that you get to view the lunar eclipse tonight, which is covering 70% of the world, except for us. We don't get to see it. Unless you're out, I believe, like in the furthest stretches of the Keys, you'll be able to see it. But if you're watching the eclipse and listening to the show, that's fantastic. You can support this show by donating, going to the Amazon portal, grabbing a t-shirt. I just got a picture from Eyes Open's t-shirt. She knows. I hope she knows. I'm going to be blasting that out, by the way. But fantastic picture. And if you guys get a shirt, send me your pics. I'll put it all over the web. Also, speaking of UFOs, if you've seen one and you live out in the West anywhere, give UFO Seekers a call, 661-UFO-7889. Visit their website, ufoseekers.com. Check out their awesome YouTube channel. If you have not, you're missing out. YouTube.com/UFO Seekers. Tomorrow night on the program, Howard Storm is going to be joining us, and he had a near-death experience where he had an experience being tormented in hell. And after that, he wrote 4 books and is no longer an atheist. So that's probably going to be an interesting conversation. That's tomorrow night. But tonight, we're going to be talking about lucid dreaming. How do we induce it? Can we use it practically? What's this thing all about? So tonight, author and speaker Robert Waggoner is with us. Now, Robert Waggoner wrote the acclaimed book Lucid Dreaming, Gateway to the Inner Self, now in its 10th printing, and he co-authored Lucid Dreaming, Plain and Simple, with Caroline McCready. Now, both books are on Audible, Kindle, and CD and MP3, and his books have been translated into French, German, Chinese, Korean, and Czech, and Finnish, and other languages, and I checked these books out myself. Fantastic reviews on these books. A past president of the International Association for the Study of Dreams, Waggoner serves as co-editor of the online magazine, The Lucid Dreaming Experience, the only ongoing publication devoted specifically to lucid dreaming. And he has been a lucid dreamer since 1975. He has logged more than 1,000 lucid dreams. He frequently speaks on the science and practice of lucid dreaming at the international dream conferences, workshops, and college classrooms and places like the University of Michigan, Iowa State, St. Mary's, Evergreen, Sussex, Hebrew University, and elsewhere. He's also had several media appearances. He's been interviewed or consulted about the practice of lucid dreaming by CNN, CBS News, and ABC News, and KABC in Los Angeles, along with Iowa Public Radio, WPNR, WBGU, and other radio stations. His comments have appeared in the media as diverse as the Huffington Post, Oprah's O Magazine, Van Winkle's How Accurate Are Inception and Other Dream Films, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, Brides Magazine, and more. And Robert Waggoner enjoys educating others about the science, beauty, and potential of lucid dreaming. Thank you so much for coming on Lighting the Void. It's a real pleasure to have you on the program, Robert.
Hey, it's great to be here, Joe. Thank you.
I'm stoked to get into this because, you know, after I had that out-of-body experience, I haven't been able to do much. And I would love to at least be able to induce lucid dreaming. But before we talk about the practicality of all this stuff, I got to know how somebody like you got involved in this, because you're a big name in the field of lucid dreaming. Something happened to you. What was your first experience with this?
You know, my very first lucid dream was a spontaneous one. I was probably 10 or 11 years old. I was found myself at the public library. I'm looking at books, and all of a sudden, I see that there's a little Tyrannosaurus Rex walking through the book stacks. And even though I'm just 10 or 11 years old, I think, wait a second, dinosaurs are extinct. How can this be? And then I realized that the only logical explanation was that I must be dreaming. And that was my very first lucid dream. I was probably 10 or 11 years old, and I realized within the dream that, hey, I'm dreaming this. But it was back in 1975. I taught myself a technique to become consciously aware in the dream state. That was when I was a junior in high school. And since then, I've been off to the races.
Yeah, I wonder why some of us sometimes, like for me, when I have a dream, if I'd have seen the Tyrannosaurus Rex walk by, a lot of the times what happens is we go, hey, there's a T-Rex, right? And it's like it's reality to us, and we don't realize that it's not. Yeah. So how do we start to be able to learn the difference so we can recognize, hey, man, I'm in a dream? Sometimes it's not that easy.
Yeah, and it really isn't that easy, because if you think about it, every night we have about 5 or 6 dreams. And in most of them, we just go along with whatever happens. You know, we might be driving a car, and then we're riding a motorcycle, then we're on a bike, then we're on a skateboard, and we just kind of go along with whatever happens. And so lucid dreaming requires us to do something different. It makes us stop and think, wait a second, how can this be? This is too weird. This is too strange. And then we have to take it one step further to realize, wait a second, this is a dream. I know I'm dreaming this. And so in my books, I have a lot of techniques on how to become lucidly aware. But one of the most important things is just being more mindful. If you're more observant and mindful during the day, then you'll be much more observant and mindful at night in the dream state. And when something truly strange happens, you go, wait a second, how can this be? And you'll become lucid.
You know, I've done my research on you as much as I could, and you have got this incredible energy about you. And I have to think that lucid dreaming has changed your life. Has it changed your life in a good way?
Oh, yeah, it really has changed my life. You know, I started out like a lot of lucid dreamers, and I just had fun. You could fly around, you could walk on water, you could go through walls, you could talk to dream figures, you could just do all sorts of crazy fun stuff. And at first, that's what I thought lucid dreaming was all about. But as I went deeper and deeper, I realized that, you know, there's something really important here. There's really something powerful and beautiful and mysterious about becoming aware while you're in your unconscious mind. And when the scientific evidence came out in 1981, then I finally had a chance that I could talk to people about it, because I taught myself how to lucid dream in 1975, and I was learning all these things about it, but it was in 1981 when the scientific evidence came out. And after that, then I could share my experiences with others, learn that there's more lucid dreamers out there. We could compare notes, see that we're learning the same things. And you really realize that you're kind of entering an alternate reality in a sense, that it's an alternate dimension with its own rules and practices and principles. And as you begin to understand that, you can take it deeper and deeper and deeper.
Now, I want to be clear on this because we get a lot of questions about that. Like, what's the difference between a dream, a lucid dream, an out-of-body experience? A lot of people make real, certain, specific clarifications between the three, and others say, well, they're really all part of the same thing. It's just a matter of how conscious you want to be. What's your take on that?
Well, you could take that position that everything's a projection of consciousness, that whether you're out of body or whether you're having a lucid dream or whatever it is, it's just a projection of consciousness. And so it's all the same. But I think when you get into it, you begin to realize that a lucid dream is actually qualitatively different than an OBE. And it's just kind of like, a house cat and a mountain lion might be from the same biological family, but you don't want to bring a mountain lion and bring it into your house and right. Try to treat it like your cat. So here's some of the differences. So again, a lucid dream is whenever you realize within a dream that you're dreaming, hey, wait a second, this is a dream. Now think of a guy who's driving along, has a car accident. Suddenly he sees himself. He's 30 feet above the car looking down on himself. And here comes the medics and everything to kind of patch him back together. I mean, that person is having an out-of-body experience. He's not having realizing within a dream that he's dreaming. So that's one, fundamentally different characteristic. A lucid dream, you have to realize within the dream you're dreaming. Also, a lot of times people begin to have OBEs and they might not understand what's going on, because what might be happening is they're falling asleep and they begin to hear this humming around their body or this energy around their body or their head, or this, just real intense noise and energy. And those are all hallmarks of the OBE experience. But when it comes to a lucid dream, again, 99% of the time, you realize within a dream you're dreaming. And you don't have any of that humming, any of that energy, any of that thing of lifting out of your body or seeing your bedroom from 10 feet above your bed and wondering, how can I be seeing it like this? And so when you start to look at it, there's some really profound phenomenological differences. Normally in a lucid dream, you really have to use your mind in order to do things like move or get places and all. But in the out-of-body experience, if you want to be at the front door of your childhood home, you just think about it a little bit and boom, you're there. So again, there's a lot of phenomenological differences. In my first book, Lucid Dreaming Gateway to the Inner Self, I spend a whole chapter kind of detailing the differences. But both of them are profound experiences, and you can say both of them are projections of consciousness. But on another level, they're pretty different, just like a mountain lion and a kitty cat.
So part of the same family, but definitely different things.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, let's just get this out of the way. Have you ever had an out-of-body experience? Have you ever went past the lucid dream? And I say past in just relevant terms,
Yeah. So I taught myself how to lucid dream probably when I was like 16, 17 years old, back in high school. And roughly about the same time, I began to have an occasional out-of-body experience. And normally what would happen, I'd be falling asleep. I'd hear this weird humming, it was like 1,000 bees or a didgeridoo, right by my head, feel this weird energy. Sometimes I'd feel like I was seeing my bedroom from, 6 feet above the bed. And so I knew something was up. I knew that was its own unique experience. And thankfully I had an older brother. And one time I asked him, had he ever had these kind of experiences? And he said, oh yeah, he had them. And I said, well, what are they? And he said, oh, they're what they call OBEs. They're out of bodies. And I said, well, how do you know that? And he had read one of the first books on OBEs way back when, and kind of explained a little bit about them to me. But for a lot of people, the energy of the OBE just doesn't appeal to them. I mean, it's just not their cup of tea. And for other people, that's just their normal practice. They go OBE all the time. But for me, lucid dreaming was what I found really fascinating. And so I kind of neglected my interest in OBEs and just focused on lucid dreaming.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, it's to me, I think it's probably easier to do if you get the techniques down than have an out of body experience. But yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way. And another thing too, I wanted to ask you before we get into some of the practicality of this is, I had an experience, of a false awakening, and I wanted to talk about kind of the scary stuff, right? Real quick. One of those things where you just can't wake up. You think you're awake, but you're not really awake. And then you try to wake yourself up again, and you're in the same spot doing the same stuff. And then you realize, okay, yeah, this is a dream. So it's like a lucid dream inside a lucid dream inside of another one, and you just can't wake up. It gets pretty scary after a while, that ever happened to you?
Yeah. I think false awakenings are something that happens to lucid dreamers after they learn one thing. They learn how a lucid dream comes to an end. And I'll tell you why that's important is because after you've had enough lucid dreams to know how they come to an end, then you expect to wake up. But the power of your expectation often creates a new dream, a false awakening. And so, like, let's say I'm having a lucid dream and it's all fun and exciting, and then I do something stupid and get too excited and realize that the lucid dream's going to come to an end. Oftentimes I'll expect it to come to an end, and then I'll wake up in bed and I'll roll over in bed to start writing down the lucid dream in my dream journal. And then I'll realize, we have pink carpet. And I'll think, God, when did we get pink carpet? This is too bizarre. And that moment I'll realize, oh no, I'm still dreaming. This is still a dream. And so the thing with false awakenings, normally after one false awakening, you'll realize, hey, I'm still dreaming, and then you'll wake up. But in my books, I've mentioned that one time I had 7 false awakenings in a row.
Oh, wow.
I kept thinking, and now I'll wake up, and boom, I thought I woke up, and I'd go around, and then I'd realize, no, there's something wrong. I'm still dreaming. Boom. Then this went on 7 times in a row, but by the final time I told myself, if I go downstairs and I'm married to a brunette and we have 3 kids and an SUV, I'm just going with it. I'm just tired of all these false awakenings in a row. So yeah, they can be a little bit trippy sometimes when you have false awakenings, but normally they're connected with that expectation. You expect to wake up, and then you create a scenario of waking up, but it's just a dream scenario.
Yeah. And you said, you just mentioned earlier, like, we know how they end. What did you mean by that? Like, you can tell when lucid dream is about to be done?
Yep. Yeah. Normally you can see what's happening, because every lucid dreamer begins to learn the rules of lucid dreaming. Like, one of the fundamental rules at the very beginning is you can't get too excited. If you get too excited, it's just like too much energy on a circuit breaker. You'll flip the breaker. It can't handle that much energy. So you can't get too excited, because if you get too excited, then you're going to wake up. Or another thing in a lucid dream is you can't stare at an object fixedly, like for more than 5 or 6 seconds. If you stare at something too fixedly, then it's like the lucid dream gets shaky, and then you know that, it's coming to an end. I'm going to wake up. And so these are some of the telltale ways that you learn how to avoid waking up so you can prolong that lucid dream. And that's actually another difference between lucid dreaming and OBEs. In a lucid dream, you're so much more likely to kind of break one of the rules and then wake up. But in an OBE, normally you don't have that kind of experience at all.
Right. Yeah. And thank you for saying that, because I was just fixing to ask, how do you make it last longer? Right. And what's the longest lucid dream you think you've ever had? Like the length of it?
Probably 40 minutes or so.
Wow.
I remember talking to a friend of mine who worked in a sleep lab out in California where they did lucid dream research. And she said she was there in the sleep lab watching a lucid dreamer who would signal with his eyes that he was lucidly aware. And he signaled with his eyes that he was lucidly aware for almost 50 minutes. So imagine being lucidly aware and also remembering that you're in a sleep lab. So you signal with your eyes by moving your eyes left to right. So it'll show up on the REM polygraph pad and show that you're still consciously aware of dreaming. And she said she was just blown away to think that this guy who's laying there asleep in the adjacent bed in the sleep lab was having a lucid dream for 50 minutes. It just truly amazed her. But for most people, if they can have a lucid dream for 5 minutes, especially at the beginning, they feel pretty lucky. And that's one thing that I teach in my books is how to stabilize lucid dream so you can have long lucid dreams and how to avoid making the mistakes that'll pop you out of the lucid dream.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff from what I've heard. Others tell me that's in your books, that there's no possible way. We could talk about this forever, and there's so much information in there. There's no possible way we would give it all away. I want to know about the time, because it's just something that comes up a lot, Robert. Like even last night, Paul said I was asleep for 2 seconds, but 2 seconds. But in the dream, it felt like 2 hours. Does that happen in lucid dreaming? Do you feel like a major time difference?
There's been some examples of that. So like, think of a guy who wakes up because the alarm rings and he pushes the snooze button that'll give him like 7 minutes. And then he falls asleep and he starts to dream and realizes he's dreaming and begins to have a lucid dream. So he knows that in our time, in linear time, there's just 7 minutes going to occur before that snooze alarm goes off again. But some of these people report having incredibly long lucid dreams during those, 5, 6, 7 minutes. So you're right. Time is a funny thing. It's a real psychological thing. I remember one time I was in a car accident when I was a young guy. And I remember as I went out of the car, time began to slow down. As I was headed for the barbed wire fence thinking, oh no, this isn't going to be very good, it was like time was slowing down. And so that's one of the things about time. We think it's linear, but really time has a psychological undervalue to it. And when you see time slow down, you realize that it's a psychological perception and not so much a linear thing.
Yeah, I got a question from one of our Fringe listeners here, and they want to know about spinning. Can spinning in the dream make you prolong it if you feel like you're about to wake up or it's about to end?
Right. This is something that Stephen LaBerge, who was one of the first scientific researchers to provide the scientific evidence for lucid dreaming back in the late 70s and early 80s. This was a technique that he used to prolong his lucid dreams. When he could tell that they were coming to an end, that they were getting ready to collapse, he would begin to spin around. And the reason he said he did that is he said that he knew it would activate his vestibular system, which has to do with balance. And he said by spinning, he would get that activated and remain lucid. And so a lot of people use the spinning technique to stay in the lucid dream. Oftentimes what will happen when you'll spin, it'll create a new lucid dream spin. Our new lucid dream scene, once you stop spinning, you'll oftentimes be looking at a whole different scene.
Okay. Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. So we're just brushing the surface here, and we're going to get into a little bit more of this about lucid dreaming. And don't forget the show's here 9 p.m. to midnight every single night. Well, Monday through Friday on the Fringe FM. We'll be right back with Robert Waggoner.
Hola, Fringe listeners. This is Dave Cruz of Beyond the Strange, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
This is Corbin, son of the one and only Joe Roop, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
Listen, I want to tell you about G.I. Joy from GetTheTea.com. It's the best alchemical concoction of goodies for your stomach and digestive system I can recommend, and that's all based on my experience. Packed with colostrum, acidophilus, aloe, peppermint, and turmeric. If you do your own research, then you know this is the bee's knees for the stomach and digestion. Now, due to Big Brother's ears and the eye in the sky, you know I can't go into the details about what it helped me with. All I can say is I got relief. It's non-GMO, no fillers, no preservatives, manufactured right here in the US of A, and delivered to you by the only people who stay on top of the game and are out in front. Go grab a bottle of G.I. Joy at GetTheTea.com and see what all the fuss is about. Again, that's GetTheTea.com.
Alex X. Hi, I'm Alex Exum, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
We've heard your feedback loud and clear. You called it out, and now we're answering. All new live programming, 5 nights a week. Always remember, The Fringe FM is for you, the listener, and we appreciate your feedback. Keep the feedback coming. You can email us at talkback@thefringe.fm, call the station at 501-777-5631, or send us a message on Facebook at The Fringe FM.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app. Free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
All right, everyone, this is Justin from the UK. Excuse the chitty. If you're into the Fringe and you want to hear the brass tacks, me old China plate, Joe Roop and his guests on Light in the Void will open your mince pies. You need to shut your north and south and use your 10-speed gears and listen to them bubble. You could hear a Barry Crocker, no Brussels, but he ain't no holy friar. Anyway, you beat a Barnaby Rudge and take a butcher's.
So, have you heard of heavy metals? I'm not talking about the heavy metals in the junkyard. I'm talking about the heavy metals that build up in your body. Heavy metals in your body can make you feel sluggish, fatigued, and just plain off. Why not try Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com? Cleansing your body and making you feel great. No, not cleansing the outside of your body, but cleansing the inside of your body of intruders that sneak their way into you and set up an intruder camp. Life Change Tea helps remove unwanted intruder camps. Brew it, steep it, and drink in the results. Tastes great, so you can create a new health habit. Our tea loves to help people. It just needs the chance. So order yours today by logging on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Our Life Change Super Strength Tea is waiting. This could be a beautiful relationship. Take charge of your health. Order at GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
I'm Ryan Gable, and I want to remind you to keep your radio, phone, tablet, or computer tuned to The Fringe FM, and visit the website thefringe.fm to listen to the entire lineup of shows. You can also catch my broadcast, The Secret Teachings, Monday through Friday, beginning at 12 a.m. midnight U.S. Pacific Time, right here on The Fringe FM.
And welcome back. You are listening to Lighting the Void with your host, Joseph Roop.
And welcome back to Lighting the Void. Tonight we are going down the realm of lucid dreaming. We've talked about this on the show before, but we've never done an entire show about it. Tonight we're with the perfect person to discuss this, Robert Waggoner, who's the author of 2 books on the subject, as well as he's been on several shows and had several media appearances about this. And if you got any questions, You can text into the show at 501-777-5631. You can call in at 1-800-588-0335. You can also put your questions in the Fringe FM chat, and I will relay them to Robert as long as they are good questions. You know, not silly. But, this is so for somebody like me, Robert, that hasn't done it in a long time. Now, I can remember a few lucid dreams that I've had, but, you know, they were spontaneous. What's right. Some of the first things that we can do to get control of this and start being able to do it when we want to?
Well, so like any practice, the first thing you got to do is the basics. You have to begin to increase your dream recall, because it's not going to help if you have lucid dreams and then can't remember them in the morning. So you got to get into the practice of remembering your dreams. And the easy way that I've found to do that is when I wake up in the middle of the night spontaneously, I just always ask myself, what was I just dreaming? Because if you capture it in that first, 5 or 10 seconds upon waking up, then you have a good chance of being able to recall what the dream was about. And so then I can put some notes in my dream journal, and in the morning I can write out the entire dream experience. But the problem is a lot of times people wake up and the first thing they do is look at their phone to see if someone sent them a text message or something's going on. And if you do that, then you're going to forget your dreams just immediately. So you got to have good dream recall. Then when you get into it, there's a whole set of different techniques that a person can use. One really simple one is just the power of suggestion. So in most lucid dreams, or in most regular dreams, we kind of lack critical awareness. We just accept whatever happens. We're driving a car, then we're on a motorcycle, then a bicycle. We just accept whatever happens. So if you give yourself a suggestion like, tonight in my dreams, I'll be much more critically aware, and when I notice something strange, I'll realize I'm dreaming. So you just keep repeating that to yourself softly in your mind as you're going to sleep. Tonight in my dreams, I'll be more critically aware, and when I see something strange, I'll realize I'm dreaming. Just keep repeating that to yourself until you're kind of priming the pump. You're kind of telling yourself to be on the lookout for something strange, and when something strange happens, all of a sudden you'll realize, wow, that's too strange. Why is that movie star walking in my neighborhood? This must be a dream. And then you'll become lucid. But of course, in my book, there's tons of techniques that people can use to become lucidly aware.
So your book's packed with those techniques. Fair enough.
Yeah. It's I do want to tell people that I started writing books on lucid dreaming after I'd been a lucid dreamer for 30 years. And one thing that's kind of nice about the internet is you can get a lot of information, but some of the problem is sometimes you'll get information that's not very high quality, or you'll get information from people who have had 3 or 4 lucid dreams and really don't know what they're talking about. And so I tried to distill it down, to a dozen good techniques that anybody could use to help themselves become lucidly aware. But really the power of suggestion is definitely one of them.
Well, it does help that you've had so much experience with it. And speaking of that, what are we doing in the fields of study and science with this? Are we taking this seriously? Are there more people, in your opinion, looking into this to see how it affects our lives and how we can reprogram ourselves with it? Or are we still kind of behind when it comes to mainstream science and how they look at these things?
Oh, no. There's a lot of people who are fascinated by lucid dreaming. And so there's a lot of neurological studies. They'll bring people into the sleep lab. They'll put EEG caps on them so they can measure their brain activity. They'll signal with their eyes when they're lucidly aware. And then they'll perform an experiment. And all that time they're getting EEG data, about how the brain acts, when they're lucidly aware or doing the experiment. So there's a lot of scientific activity going on out there. Some of it's neurological, some of it's self-reports, and it's a bona fide field. There's probably been hundreds of PhD dissertations written on lucid dreaming, but where you see it being most practically use currently is with emotional healing. There's been studies on using lucid dreams to help with PTSD and recurring nightmares, because recurring nightmares is one of the main factors of people who have PTSD. Almost every night they have the same horrible nightmare. And I remember in my magazine, I interviewed this woman who she was an airline mechanic who was working on a big Boeing, and it broke free from its moorings and rolled across her legs as she watched. And so they took her to the hospital. She was in the hospital for like 6.5 months. They had to amputate one of her legs. Yeah. And she said that every night she'd have a recurring nightmare of something chasing her, and she'd just wake up screaming. She said it got so bad that she almost hated to fall asleep. I mean, that's how bad the recurring nightmares were from this PTSD. And then she was at a bookstore one time and saw a book on lucid dreaming, and remembered how she used to lucid dream as a girl, and read it and realized that you could use lucid dreaming to help. And in her next dream, she's being chased by the monster, and she thought, wait a second, how can I be running? I just have one leg. And then she realized, oh, this is a dream. And for the first time ever, she turned and faced the monster. She just looked at it and waved goodbye as she went off flying away. She said the monster got a totally befuddled look on its face. And she said after that, her nightmares basically ceased. And so that's what therapists are discovering who use lucid dreaming to help people with recurring nightmares and PTSD. If they can teach those people how to become lucid just once, then those recurring nightmares just basically cease. And so using lucid dream to help with that, and you have a lot of anecdotes of people using it to help with phobias, to help with bad habits or compulsions. You can begin to see how you could use lucid dreaming to really recalibrate, your kind of inner psyche and become a much more whole person. But there's a whole range of potentials, and that's what I bring out in my books, is all the other ways that people are using it for like healing, for exploring, doing spiritual practices and lucid dreams, interacting with the deceased, dream figures, and all that kind of stuff. There's such a deep level to lucid dreaming. It's truly incredible.
Well, that's something I wanted to talk to you about too, because for me, and I know you've got background in psychology, right? So for me, to be able to experience these things inside what we call the mind, it doesn't make logical sense to me that this is happening inside our brain. And I just wonder, I'm not holding you to it, but I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that as far as, materialism versus what we call spiritual or metaphysical. Do you think that there's something unseen going on, or do you think maybe this does just happen all in the brain?
Well, so it's all quite complex because here's the deal. Each night, the average person is having 5 or 6 dreams. We spend about 23% of the sleep state in the dream state, which is about 2 hours each night in dreaming. I mean, by the time you're 11 years old, you've spent almost an entire year in the dream state. But what do we know about dreaming? And a lot of us don't even pay attention to dreams to begin with. But for those of us who pay attention to dreams, and we realize that occasionally, maybe once a month, maybe once every 3 months, we have a dream that has precognitive information. Like in the dream, someone will say some strange set of words, and 3 hours later after we wake up, we hear somebody say that strange wording again, and you realize, how can this be? How can I have had a dream that presaged what I experienced later in the day?
Exactly.
And so that's when you begin to realize that dreaming just in and of itself, or the unconscious mind, oftentimes seems much more mysterious than than we ever think. And so when you have these precognitive dreams, when you might have telepathic dreaming, where a relative tells you something like Susie is pregnant, and you wake up in the morning and you tell your parents over the breakfast table, hey, Aunt so-and-so appeared last night and told me Susie is pregnant. And then a week later you get a card, oh, Susie is expecting, and all. That's when you really begin to realize that dreaming and also lucid dreaming can kind of take us to a place where we can begin to explore this. And that's what I like about lucid dreaming. When you're lucidly aware and you become a good lucid dreamer, then you can begin to experiment with these kind of things. You can begin to experiment with time and space, begin to do your own studies and see, can you get information outside of linear space and linear time? And when you find out that it seems possible, you begin to realize that, whoa, that things are much more curious than we ever were led to believe.
Yeah, because I think about things like pain and pleasure, and I want everybody to use their imagination here. We don't have to get descriptive, but all the kinds of things that you could do in a lucid dream. But when people talk about they feel the pain or they feel exactly the same things that they feel in reality, I have no idea. Like, I could get how some of it could work with the way the nerve endings work and stuff like that, but some things that people describe, I just don't know how that could happen materially, unless there's something that we just haven't figured out about neurology yet.
There's been some various studies, and there's some conducted by Stephen LaBerge, in which he had people become lucidly aware, and they'd signal with their eyes that when they were lucidly aware, and then he'd have them perform a task in the lucid dream, like maybe they would clench their right fist and their left fist and their right fist and left fist in an alternating fashion. And he'd have little monitors on their forearms that showed that there was this subliminal muscle movement occurring. And then he took it even further, and he brought people into the sleep lab, and he told them, look, when you become lucidly aware, I want you to find a dream partner and have lucid dreaming sex. And he had these people in the sleep lab. He had them 17 physiological measures of how their body would respond when they were having lucid dream sex. And he said that 15 of the 17 measures were basically exactly like what you would expect if you'd experienced that in physical reality. But these people were doing the act in a lucid dream. And he said, as far as the brain was concerned, it was basically the same act as the physical act. That's how powerful it is when you're consciously aware at this deep state of lucid dreaming. To your body, it seems totally, completely real. And that's why in a lucid dream, when you touch a wall, it feels so cool and nubby. Or if you're looking at a salt shaker on a table, you can see the individual grains of salt and the light reflecting off of them. It's the detail is so amazing. And that's one of the problems, though. It makes it easy to go back into regular dreaming because you think it's real. You think it's real because it seems real, it feels real, it tastes real, it looks real. But you have to keep reminding yourself, I'm dreaming this. This is a lucid dream, and keep on with your experiments.
Well, for me, I get into that. I get kind of deep into things sometimes, Robert. So I get to, sure. I start thinking like, well, if I can do this in the dream, then what is reality? Right? Like, exactly. We're experiencing it either way, in the lucid dream or here. If I feel pain there or pleasure there or here, then what is reality anyways, right? So, yeah, but that takes you down a whole nother rabbit hole. But I wonder if you've, yeah, go ahead.
Joe, it's interesting that lucid dreaming, so it's been scientifically validated since 1980, but it has about a 2,000 or 3,000 year time before that when it's been used by major religions and shamanic traditions as a spiritual pathway. For example, in Buddhism, for 2,000 years, they've had what they call dream yoga. and they have these young kids come to a dream yoga monastery, and for 3 years they teach them how to become good lucid dreamers and to practice the philosophy of Buddhism in their lucid dreams. And in Sufism, since the 11th century, they've had major lucid dream experts who've used lucid dreaming as a spiritual practice. There's a lot of shamanic traditions. I mean, there's Carlos Castaneda was talking about the Toltec or Mixteca shamanic tradition. Even in some of the Native American tribes, there's secret societies of that are involved in lucid dreaming. And so this has a deep, deep spiritual base to it. Lucid dreaming does. And in dream yoga, it was considered one of the 6 pathways to enlightenment. I mean, that's how valuable they saw lucid dreaming coupled with the philosophy of Buddhism. So it'll bring up all these questions of what is reality? What is actual experience? What's inherently true, right, and what's just perceived? And so you can take it so incredibly deep, and that's why lucid dreaming can be a really powerful force in a person's life.
Exactly. That's my point. It's like, I mean, if we look at quantum physics and all that we already know that physical reality is less than 1/10 of reality, right? So physical reality is less than 1/10. And I apologize if you guys hear crickets in the background. The shack has been swarmed by night creatures. Seriously, I've never heard it. Like if you walk outside right now, the crickets and frogs are insane. Yeah, so less than 1/10 of reality. And then when we have a lucid dream, which is, we say, well, that's not real, it's a dream. Well, if you take that into consideration, that physical reality is not as real as you think it is, or you're just getting a very small portion of it, then I'm going with the experience. The experience is what matters, wouldn't you say?
Well, lucid dreaming will make you look at perception. It'll make you look at, how do my beliefs play into my perception? How do my expectations play into my perception? How do my focus and my intent play into my perception? Because as you get deeper into lucid dreaming, you realize that part of how you create that reality or create that experience is through the mechanism of your beliefs and expectations and focus and intent and all of that. So again, lucid dreaming can take you really to a deep, deep place and make you question some really fundamental, basic assumptions of life and experience.
My favorite thing to do is fly. What's your favorite thing to do? Just curious.
Probably flying. When you have that sense of freedom and being able to soar above everything and occasionally even get beyond the earth and out in the stars and the planets, it's truly fantastic.
Yeah. Someone's asking, does the full moon help with lucid dreaming? You'd have to journal a lot to figure that out, I think, right?
I remember one time, so for my magazine, one time I wrote about miscellaneous things that might help you have a lucid dream. And I wrote in there that I thought a full moon made it more difficult to lucid dream. And after I wrote that article, the next 3 full moons, I had lucid dreams on each of them. And so then I had to write a retraction that my lucid dreaming taught me that you can have lucid dreams on the night of a full moon. But basically what it takes is focus and the full moon might actually help. Again, it's about being aware. If you stay aware, if you notice something strange and ask yourself, is this a dream? Then you're halfway there.
Yeah. So I will mention this too, just a side note, that and magical societies, I guess you could say occult societies, however you want to look at it, they tell you to keep a dream journal, but also to note the positions of the sun and the moon to start with and where they are. And you'll start seeing patterns, right? And I can verify that information as well. So I just wanted to get your view on that, because I know that you probably don't take a very big interest in, I'm assuming, in the occult side of this, but more into the just the lucid dreaming stuff itself. And I kind of want to know, because it's fascinating to me, like if we can get this to help our lives, and that's something you talk about, how can that happen? How can I use what's in my dream to change something in my life?
Right. And there's plenty of ways that you can do that. And in fact, it's so deep, it'll probably take us into the next hour easily to get into how you can use lucid dreaming to change your life. But a lot of it is emotional healing. You can use it for physical healing. You can use it to access creativity. You can use it to interact with what I call the awareness behind the dream, which is possibly your unconscious mind or might be your inner self. And you can use it also to perform spiritual practices and actually pretty much have your mind blown. So there's a lot of ways you can use lucid dreaming to change your life.
I'm sure you're aware that we all have egos, and for some reason, I feel like, well, we talked about that last night, how the ego is just a concept. Really can't prove there's such a thing, but whatever we call it, the ego, I like to think that I'm a superhero, and when I have lucid dreams, right? So the first thing I want to do is show everybody that I can fly above them. Isn't that crazy? Like, I want everybody to look up at me flying, and I think there's something inherently wrong with that. Like, why wouldn't I want everybody to fly? Why just me?
I think it's fun, but one of the beautiful things about lucid dreaming, and why I call my first book Lucid Dreaming Gateway to the Inner Self, is that after about 10 years of lucid dreaming, I realized that there was something beyond myself and dream figures in the lucid dream. And I began to ignore dream figures and just shout out questions or requests to that awareness behind the dream. And the amazing thing was, when it responded with such incredible creativity and such insight and power, then I realized this is a game changer. When you begin to interact with that awareness behind the dream, you begin to realize how little the ego knows and how uncreative the ego is compared to the immense creativity, knowledge, and wisdom of that larger awareness.
Yes, and I'm sure that's great that you said that, because we all want to talk about the fun stuff, right? And we will continue to keep talking about the fun stuff in this conversation. But can we use this stuff, according to Robert? We can. How to, fix our lives. I don't fix as a hard word, but change our lives. How can we use our dreams, our lucid dreams specifically, to affect our physical lives? We'll be right back with Robert Waggoner. You guys don't go anywhere.
I love magic, and on Lighting the Void, each and every week, you will get to hear shows about magic, mysticism, and many other subjects that stretch your mind and imagination. So when I got my mind on the magic and the magic on my mind, I listened to Lighting the Void on the Fringe FM. It's magic.
May the gods look with favor upon you.
You're wondering what we're going to do to you, aren't you?
This is Elle. I listen to Lighting the Void because it's interactive radio with good content, interesting guests, and a humble host, sharing this journey through the esoteric. Hey, Joe Roop. Thanks for having us along for the ride.
Thank you so much for a delightful evening.
Well, I got a lot of ground to cover.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Somewhere between abnormal and paranormal, there's a show called Into the Paranormal. I'm Jeremy Scott. Hear me live Saturdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern on the Fringe FM.
Introducing Shadow Light Tarot from Waking Canvas. The Fringe FM's new contributing artist, Eric Tesey. This hand-illustrated black and white self-published deck serves as a reinvention of the tarot, never before witnessed. Each of the several suits of this 88-card deck lineup form an infinite panoramic scene. Even the included visual companion guidebook is entirely hand-illustrated, cover to cover with beautiful visuals and esoteric symbols and artwork. The newly released deck comes in a custom magnetic box with its own travel pouch. The Shadow Light Tarot Premium Deck and its travel-sized mini deck Wonderlight Tarot are both available now from WakingCanvas.com. If you use the code word FRINGE, that's F-R-I-N-G-E at checkout, you'll receive an extra 10% off your entire order. To discover more, including a free reading and time lapses of all the illustrated artwork, make your way over to WakingCanvas.com today. That's WakingCanvas.com.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
We all have that story to tell in our lives. The winds were howling. The ground shook. You could hear rushing water. And then history repeats itself. When there's no power, refrigeration fails, stores with their shelves stripped bare, ATMs can't operate, deliveries stop. Then what? These events can last days or weeks. You need a plan. In statements made during recent interviews, FEMA Administrator Brock Long has repeatedly urged all Americans to understand three truths. FEMA is broke, the system is broken. If this is the new normal, Americans can't rely on federal cavalry when disaster strikes. Don't get caught out in the elements empty-handed. Prepare with us by going to preparewiththefringe.com and get your 2-week food supply. 92 servings, 8 food varieties with 25-year shelf life. Normally $137. Now only $75. Or get a month's supply, normally $247. Now only $147 shipped in one business day. Just go to preparewiththefringe.com or call 888-440-7931. That's 888-440-7931. Get this great offer and be prepared while it lasts.
Occult Arcana is a balanced and objective guide to those subjects considered a part of the nature of light and darkness. Addressed in this text is a compilation of material that will provide new perspectives and awaken latent abilities that we all possess. The content herein shall provide magical sustenance for adept and novice alike, and will help strengthen the cornerstone of mystic understanding and alchemical transmutation. If you are interested in this modern grimoire, you can find detailed information and ways to order by visiting www.thesecretteachings.info. Although esoteric and occult studies remain vast, they are rooted within a universal philosophy that is difficult, if not impossible by finite terms, to explain in words. Language places restriction and erects barriers to understandings. By this it is to be understood that there are some things man should consider far too sacred to profane with definition. For these concepts and the manner by which we live our lives, we shall take a note from the Greek philosopher Pythagoras. Quote, "Silence is better than unmeaning words." End quote. To get your autographed copy of Occult Arcana today, simply visit www.thesecretteachings.info or email The Secret Teachings at rdgable@yahoo.com.
Well, it's not doing any good. I've literally kicked the wall. I've pulled the fader down and kicked the wall on the side of the shack here to get the crickets to be quiet. But the moon is talking to them way too much. So if you hear them in the background, they're just going to be part of the show tonight. Good thing I got a gate. We're here with Robert Waggoner. We're talking about lucid dreaming. And if you want to go to the website for reference, It is www.lucidadvice.com. Check out the website. There's some fantastic articles and content on there as well. And we're just about to get into the practicality of this, but I got a question real quick I want to ask you from one of our listeners. And he is asking, if I have to scroll up to find it, can you ask if lucid dreaming can, in any possible way, help with learning? I mean, for example, if someone would like to learn a new language or a new skill like programming or etc., you name it, could it help speed up the process?
This is something that's actually been scientifically studied by German lucid dream researchers. There's a guy out there, Paul Thole, who was a fantastic lucid dreamer. In fact, he taught himself how to lucid dream back in 1959. So he's really one of the early explorers. But what he started to do was he realized that in lucid dreams, as a skier, he could do some dangerous maneuvers when he was skiing in his lucid dreams, things that he would never do on a real slope, but because he'd worry about blowing out his knees or something. And he said that as he began to do them in the lucid dream state, it was like he was creating muscle memory that would then allow him to do it in the waking state. And in fact, they did a survey of professional athletes in Germany, and 8% of them, and that was 8% of them said that they use lucid dreaming to perfect their athletic ability. And so in Germany, there's this whole history of using lucid dreaming to improve your time or your physical performance. There's a great story of a guy who was getting a master's degree in kind of teaching phys ed, and he was a horrible swimmer because his main focus was gymnastics, but he had to take swimming courses. And the swim coach said he swam like a stone. I mean, that's how bad the guy was. But he was a great lucid dreamer. And so in his lucid dreams, he would go to the swimming pool in his lucid dream, and he would swim through gummy bears or swim through yogurt or swim through honey. He would turn the whole swimming pool into yogurt and then swim through it so he could kind of check his form as he was swimming. Or sometimes he would cast his awareness into his coach, who he knew would be watching, and he would see how he was doing by virtue of his coach's viewpoint. And this guy within a semester became a much improved swimmer because he would practice in all of his lucid dreams. They even did like a 30-minute video on this guy. But you're right. Physical skills, there's a lot of scientific evidence for some of these other things. There's musicians who have practiced difficult music in their lucid dream and found that it was very easy to do the difficult musical score. And then when they woke up, it transferred over to waking reality, and now they could do that difficult musical score. So I don't know if it'll turn you into a perfect Chinese speaker after 3 or 4 lucid dreams, but it couldn't hurt. And there is some scientific evidence to show that it does help with the transfer of physical skills, of improving and learning new physical skills.
You know what? I want to get just a little woo-woo here on you and nerdy if I can. When I was a kid, I always thought that it would be cool to be able to dream with other people. Now, I know at the Monroe Institute, they've had experiences in the OBE state where a lot of people have seen the same stuff or they've went to the same places. Has this ever happened in the dream world, though?
You know, in that first book of mine, Lucid Dreaming, Gateway to the Inner Self, I have an entire chapter on mutual lucid dreaming. And I'll tell you what happens, Joe, is normally what happens is one person will be lucid and the other person will not be lucid or will be semi-lucid. And so here's an example. One morning I wake up and an hour later the phone rings and it's my friend Ed who lives out in Oregon. And Ed asked me if I remember my dreams from last night. And I say, sure, I had like 3 or 4. And so I start reading what they are. And he goes, okay, that one right there. You're sitting at a table with 3 other people, right? And I go, right, that's right. And he goes, okay, the person in front of you, was that a woman who was in a blue dress and had a flower in her hair and a white cap? And I go, yeah, Ed, how did you know that? And he goes, don't worry about that right now. He goes, okay, to your right, was that a man? I go, yeah, in my dream it was a man. And he goes, okay, was the man wearing this? And he'd describe exactly what the man was wearing. I'd say, yeah, that's right, Ed. I'd go, boy, that's amazing. And then he'd go, okay, to your left, tell me about the person to your left. And I'd say, well, I know it's a man, but I can't really remember what he looked like. And then that's when Ed would say, well, that was me lucidly aware in your dream. And that's how I know what all the people at the table were wearing. And so a lot of times you have these dream experiences that just blow your mind when the other person is lucidly aware and has somehow managed to get into your lucid dream. But I had a really funny one myself. I became lucidly aware. I was in this restaurant. I was just amazed at all the detail. I mean, I could literally see the salt crystals in the salt shaker, and I'm admiring all of that. And then my friend Maureen, Mo, walks through the door, and I think, oh, it's Mo. And I run up to her and I say, Mo, this is a dream. Do you know we're dreaming this? But the incredible thing was, Mo had rapid eye movement. Her eyes were fluttering around like she was in the dream state, but was in a normal dream, and they were just fluttering around. And so then I thought, oh, I have to help her become lucidly aware. So then I realized that we could levitate. So I grabbed her around the waist and I began to levitate up into the restaurant. And I said, look, Mo, we're floating. This is a lucid dream. And I looked at her face, and her eyes were still fluttering with rapid eye movement. And I thought, crap, how can I help her become lucidly aware? And I got so frustrated that then I put my fingers into a peace sign and I shoved it right into her face. And I said, Mo, do you see this peace sign? You can use it as a symbol to help you become lucidly aware anytime you want. And I just shoved that peace sign right in her face. And then I decided to wake up. And so in the morning, I live in the Midwest and Mo lives out on the West Coast, and I thought she'd give me a call or send me an email, but nothing happened. And so I didn't tell any of my friends or any of this kind of thing. 3 months later, in physical reality, I'm out in San Francisco where Mo lives, and I realized I had some free time to invite her to lunch. And so she told me the little restaurant to go to in this suburb and all. So I'm standing out on the street in front of the restaurant, and here comes Mo walking right up the sidewalk. And right as she gets up to me, doesn't even say hello, she immediately puts her fingers into a peace sign and shoves it in my face. And I ask her, Mo, why are you doing that? And she said, I don't know. I just felt like I should do it. And so it's like this thing that I did to her in the lucid dream. 3 months later, in waking reality, she does the same thing to me, but she doesn't know why she's doing it. And so when you have these kind of experiences, you realize that in rare lucid dreams, people might stumble in who are actually in the dream state themselves. And but to get two lucid dreamers mutually lucid at the same time, that's a little bit more difficult, but in my book I do have some successful examples of that, where they passed on code words and stuff, and gave it to a fair witness in the morning when they woke up.
Wow!
So
wow, yeah, that's cool.
That's
especially
why,
for somebody like me. I'm a nerd. That stuff is really cool to me.
That's why lucid dreaming is truly wild. But I do want to say that if I was a person out there, I wouldn't make mutual lucid dreaming my first goal. It's one of those things. It's kind of cool when it happens, but there's so many other amazing things of accessing creativity, emotional healing, physical healing, interacting with that awareness behind the dream that are so much more, I think, incredible than just having a mutual lucid dream or a shared dream experience.
Well, you know what? I agree with you, but I'm such a nerd. I think that's the top right there to me. To me, I mean, and because what does it imply, right? Especially for the conspiratorial folks, is there such a thing as mind control? Are there other people that are very gifted at this that can come into your dream? I mean, witches write about this stuff in books, for heaven's sakes, you know, and I've always thought it was a fallacy, but if the studies are showing that it happens, there might be something to it.
Well, it's a interesting thing. I'll tell you what this helped me realize, and I talked about this in the final chapter of my first book, is that we exist, all of us exist in an interconnected oneness. That there's this outer surface, this outer physical reality that has all these various characteristics, but sometimes in the dream state, sometimes in lucid dreams, sometimes in moments of intuition or whatever, we have incredible synchronicities. We have incredible interactive experiences that show that at a deeper level, there's these amazing interconnections. And so lucid dreaming taught me that we all exist in an interconnected oneness, and that these experiences happen because that's the nature of oneness. That's the nature of interconnectedness. That explains how it happens. It's not necessarily that someone's psychic or this, that, or the other. If it wasn't part of the structure of reality, then it would never happen. But because we exist in an interconnected oneness, it can happen.
Yeah, fair enough. So what about? Yeah, that's so cool. I want to learn how to increase being able to do that, right? So what about things like, I'll leave it alone, I promise. Okay. So what about things like the witching hour, right? Like 3:00 in the morning, that's when everything really happens big time. Have you noticed anything like that?
Well, in lucid dreaming, when they've done surveys of lucid dreamers, people are most likely to have a lucid dream about 6 hours into the sleep state. So that's when you're most likely to have lucid dreams. And also, as you go throughout the night, you have longer dreams. Like the first dream state that happens about 90 minutes after falling asleep, might be just 5 or 6 minutes long. But that final dream state that occurs at 6:00 in the morning might be 50 minutes or almost an hour long. And so you're much more likely to have lucid dreams about 6 hours in or in the dream state before you finally get up. However, people have had them all throughout the night. There's also a thing called wake-initiated lucid dream, where you move from the waking state into a lucid dream. And so you can have them within 10 seconds of falling asleep. But you're most likely to have it 6 hours into sleep.
So can some people have it, say, during the hypnagogic state? Maybe.
Well, you kind of use, so hypnagogia normally gets translated as the gate to sleep. And so once you make it through the gate to sleep, sometimes you can have a lucid dream right then. For example, Stephen LaBerge again, he had what he called the counting technique that he used for wake-initiated lucid dreams. So let's say you wake up tonight at 4:00 in the morning because you have to use the loo or whatever, and you come back to bed, and here's what he would do. He would go, 1, this is a dream. In his mind, he'd be saying softly, 1, this is a dream. 2, this is a dream. 3, this is a dream. 4, this is a dream. And sometimes he'd get to 23, this is a dream, and he'd realize that there was a dream realm formed all around him. And he'd go, oh, I am dreaming. This is a dream. And so by using that kind of counting technique, you kind of keep that thread of awareness. And when you hear yourself saying, this is a dream, 23, this is a dream, and you look around and see a dream environment around you, then you go, oh, I did it. I'm lucidly aware now. So one of the reasons I say to do it when you spontaneously wake up at night is normally your head is kind of in a different place. You've been asleep for 3 or 4 or 5 hours, and your mind is kind of still in that kind of creamy, dreamy state. When you try to do wake-initiated lucid dreaming, these wild techniques, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's a little bit harder because your waking state is more active, and it's harder to fall asleep into a dream.
Yeah, something else I've noticed too about lucid dreams is the details. And I would like, for several reasons, and you guys can use your mind on this one, but I'd like to be able to get the details more vivid. Okay, so like in an out-of-body experience, everything was extremely vivid. But if I was to look at a clock or writing on a book or something, that seems to be a little strange or off-kilter. Cattywampus would be the southern word for it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, so you're right. In dreams, things are more subject to change. So, for example, you might look at a book and then look away, then you look back at it, and now it's a whole different paragraph, whole different script. Or you look at a clock and it says it's 8:22. You look away, you look back at it, and now it says it's 4:59. And a lot of times people become lucid when they see that situation. But you're right. Oftentimes in some of our regular dreams, the details do become a little bit mushy. But in a lucid dream, you can really focus in on the details at a profoundly deep level and really kind of drill into the details of things, especially if you know how. Okay, cool. Because if you can do that, then you can get detailed with other stuff. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's cool. Now let's get, we're already at the halfway point, and I've prolonged this far enough. So here we go. Can you give me an example of how we can use something in a lucid dream to directly affect our physical lives in a good way or in a way we would like? Right. So here's an example. A guy came up to me. I was giving a workshop in Seattle, and he came up to me and said, your second book has totally changed my life and saved my life. And his wife came up and said, your second book saved his life. And I asked him what he's talking about. And he said he grew up in a dysfunctional family. There's just a lot of dysfunction. And because it was so dysfunctional, he said he had kind of a horrible dream life, that in his dreams there's always arguments or fightings or murders or chases, and just he said it was horrible. And he had kind of learned to become lucid to deal with all the nightmarish scenarios. But basically, when he'd become lucid before he read my book, he would just fight the monsters or try to kill the bad guys or flee or whatever. He never realized what you could do. And so he read my second book, and he realized in my second book, I'm saying that for the large majority of dream figures are a projection of your mind. They're your energy projected out there. So it might be your fear of whatever, fear of success, fear of failure, fear of poverty, fear of whatever. And so in my books, I talk about whenever you have an angry or hostile dream figure coming at you, especially in a lucid dream, give it exactly what it lacks. So, for example, if I became lucidly aware and there was an angry black Rottweiler snarling at me, looking like it's going to come and rip apart my throat, I would begin to send it love and understanding and acceptance and peace from my heart. And if you do that, then you'll watch that dream figure, that angry Rottweiler, it'll shrink down and become a little dachshund or a little poodle or whatever, and you can pick it up and go flying around. It'll become something friendly. And if you do the same thing to the angry witch or the monster, just send it love, compassion, understanding, then it'll start to shrink down. It'll become childlike. It'll become unthreatening. And if you get to a point where you totally accept it, then this is the phenomenal thing that'll happen. if you totally accept whatever that figure is, totally accept it from your heart, it'll burst into light, and that light energy will come into you, and you'll wake up the next morning feeling energetically different. But anyway, this guy said that he read my book, and he began to do that with all the dream figures. Every time he became lucid, if they were angry or hostile or whatever, he just began to accept them. He began to love them. He began to send them understanding, compassion, all that. And he said, after a few months of doing that, he said it began to change his dream life considerably, because now there wasn't all this disharmony and just raucous mayhem all the time. And then he said what was even crazier, in his waking life, all of a sudden it was becoming more peaceful and less raucous and crazy. And he said as he went further and further, he said it became so incredible that his family began to comment on what a changed person he had become. So again, this is a way that you can use lucid dreaming in a good way to begin to resolve these issues that all of us have inside of our mind, whether it's fear or anger or hostility or whatever it is. Approach the dream figures in a new way. Realize it's a dream. Send them love and compassion, and as they change, you'll realize, they're change. As my mind changes, they change. As my mind changes, as my thinking about them changes, they change. That shows they're a product of my mind. And if you do that, it'll totally empower you. You'll begin to realize that all these monsters and bad men and whatever that are haunting you are actually your own energy projected outward. And when you begin to accept them, then you reclaim that energy. And when you reclaim that energy, you now have more energy for creativity, for doing good stuff in your life, for having a decent life. And so that's just one example of how you can use lucid dreaming to affect your life in a good way.
Yeah, I used to have dreams of earthquakes and the world ending and mass floods and all kinds of stuff. And I would get online and talk about, and I've done it not too long ago on this show. I talk about how the world was ending, and I was having precog dreams about all this stuff. And I started realizing that I was having dreams that were symbolizing things that were happening in my life,
Yeah, and that's one thing about dreaming and even lucid dreaming. I always encourage lucid dreamers to learn about dream interpretation and dream work. And there's some great authors like Gail Delaney or Patricia Garfield who have some wonderful books on dream interpretation and some great techniques. And the first thing you got to do when you have those kind of dreams is, what's going on in my current life that might be catastrophic, or what's going on in my current life where my home is burning down. I mean, if you're getting ready to have a divorce, then the dream makes sense. That's why my home is burning down. It's not that the home is literally going to burn down. It's that symbolically, and at an inner emotional level, it's all falling apart and turned into dust. So that's really important. But I want to tell you one thing I always tell people in my workshops. So I do these 30-day online workshops with Glidewing and all. But one thing I always tell people, when you're dealing with dream figures in a lucid dream, always ask them an open-ended question. Ask them, who are you? What do you represent? And oftentimes they'll tell you, and as soon as they tell you, you'll get it. You'll finally understand what they're doing in your dream life.
Fantastic. I think we can all relate to that. I think we can use our dreams to get rid of optic rectitis. You never heard of what that is? I'll tell you what that is when we come back. We're here with Robert Waggoner. We're talking about lucid dreaming. Go check out the website, lucidadvice.com. Be right back.
Nesbitt. Take the time to expand your mind by listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop right here on the Fringe FM.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Paranormal News, I'm Brad Bernards. A bunch of people are going to meet up at the Area 51 Alien Center tourist attraction and coordinate their entry. If they Naruto run, they can move faster than their bullets. Naruto running is running with your arms trailing behind you to decrease resistance. According to Mysterious Universe, thousands are to gather and run right past the guards at the Nevada National Security Site and storm Area 51 before they can catch or shoot them all. The event is set to take place on September 20th at 3 a.m. Attendees will meet at the Area 51 Alien Center in Armagosa Valley, Nevada, before proceeding to Area 51 itself. The last time someone tried to speed past the armed guards at the site, it didn't go well. As of now, over 250,000 people have pledged to storm Area 51. If only 1% showed up, they can't shoot 2,000 or 3,000 people, but who knows what kind of spooky gizmos the guards at that place may possess. A Colombian bishop is planning to exorcise an entire city this weekend, sprinkling holy water from a helicopter. Monsignor Ruben Dario Jaramillo Montoya, the Bishop of Buenaventura, will say a prayer intended to purge the area of demonic infestation. That's according to the Guardian newspaper. The city is beset by violence, drug smuggling, and poverty. Montoya disclosed the exorcism shortly after a 10-year-old girl was tortured and murdered. Colombia's army is reported to be providing the bishop with a helicopter for the aerial exorcism during the city's annual patron saints festivities. Buenaventura on Colombia's Pacific coast was named as the country's most violent place in 2014. Although exorcisms are usually carried out on individuals, in 1890 Pope Leo XIII added a prayer, exorcism against Satan and the fallen angels, for resolving demonic infestation. Last year, the Vatican held an exorcism training course for priests amid claims that demands for deliverance from demonic possession had greatly increased across the world. Find all of tonight's stories at parabnormalradio.com. I'm Brad Bernards, Parabnormal News.
Right, me old Chiners. I know it's an ad break, but before you lot shoot off and make yourself a cup of Rosie Lee or whatever else it is you're going to sling down your Gregory Peck, you need to listen to me babble. If, like me, you found your way to Light in the Void via a downloadable podcast, you might want to take a butcher's at the Fringe FM Wind and Kite. You won't Adam and Eve how many other shows there are or what they rabbit on about. Ancient history, conspiracy, the consciousness, the esoteric, the occult, metaphysics, parapolitical, ufology, technology and spirituality, to name but a few. They got featured hosts like Ryan Gable, Jeremy Scott, Alex Exum, Tim Doyle, Cortana and Gigi, Susanna Ross, the Reverend John Polk, Michael Deacon and J.D. Lewis. You might find yourself listening to the thoughts and theories of the author of The Fish you just finished reading. Or you could pick up the dog and bone, call in and tell everyone your own beliefs or experiences. So do me a favour, before you put on the Ansel or crack open a bottle of vino or roll a joint, go to the Fringe FM and see what you're missing.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
So we're talking about lucid dreaming tonight with Robert Waggoner, who's wrote a couple of great books, fantastic books on the subject. You can go check out his website, lucidadvice.com. That's the website. And earlier we were talking about how to use lucid dreams to actually affect your physical life. And if it could help some people get rid of what my dad always called optic rectitis, that would be great. Now, for some of you, I promised I'd tell you what that is, and some of you probably already know what it is, but it's pretty much where your optic nerve gets tied up with your rectal nerve, and it gives you a crappy outlook on life. And you don't want to have that, right? So if you can get rid of that, first and foremost, through lucid dreaming, that's fantastic. But I think we get caught up in the fun stuff, like flying and getting together with whatever, like you brought up earlier, whatever partner we can. I mean, if we can do that, who's not going to want to do that stuff? You know, be rich, sleep with who they want, fly. It's kind of hard to, I'm just going to be honest, when I know I can do those things, to figure out that I need to focus on what's happening in my dream to affect my physical life, right? At least it would be for me.
So I have a good story for you, Joe, if you have a second.
Yeah, man. Shoot. I'm just telling you about me. That's not really a question. I'm telling you my issues. I want to get some free therapy here.
Yeah. So I was mentioning earlier that I always think it's a good idea to, when you're lucidly aware, to ask a dream figure an open-ended question like, who are you? What do you represent? Because if you ask them, do you know I'm dreaming you? They always get this really disappointed look on their face, like you're a total idiot or something. And lucid dreamers all around the world report how when they tell a dream figure, "Do you know I'm dreaming you?" how disappointed they look. But I was reading in a book by a friend of mine, Charlie Morley. He's talking about a guy named Antonio who is a lucid dreamer. And so Antonio had been at a lucid dreaming workshop, heard a talk, and that night he had a lucid dream. And so he's going around the lucid dream, just exploring and checking everything out. And he notices that there's this woman who keeps following him. And finally, he turns around and asks her, who are you? What do you represent? And she replied, I represent your brain, and I've come here to tell you that we want you to stop smoking. It bothers us. And so as a lucid dreamer, he had to figure out how do you respond to a dream figure that says it's representing your brain and wants you to stop smoking. And so he thought about it, and he realized that he tried to stop smoking before, but he always had cravings, and the cravings would make him, pick up the habit again. And so he told the dream figure, he goes, look, if you can make me think of something else every time I have a craving, then maybe I can stop smoking. And the dream figure looked at him and said, we'll see what we can do. And this gentleman reports that when he woke up, he had no interest in smoking. He could hang out with smokers and had no interest in smoking. It was like his interest in smoking just died that night. But he told this dream figure, whenever I think about smoking, make me think about something else instead. And so that shows you kind of one of maybe the psychological principles that in the future might be used by people who have obsessive compulsive disorders, like they're always washing their hands because they have a fear of germs. Maybe in a lucid dream they could meet a representation of that issue and figure out a compromise, like, every time I feel like washing my hands, make me think of something else instead, and come to resolve it. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up because it's a wonderful example of what happens in a lucid dream sometimes. When you, the lucid dreamer, you learn something about the dream figure because you've asked an open-ended question like, who are you? What do you represent? And then it tells you, and then you have to respond to that new knowledge. It can really be an amazing experience.
Did you hear my Zippo go off or something? Is that what this was about?
I don't know.
Yeah, you said, I got a story for you. I was like, oh yeah, here it comes. Right. Yeah, but no, that's cool, but that's kind of creepy, right? So let me get this straight. This thing showed up in his dream. Did he program it to show up?
Nope. He just became lucidly aware. He's exploring. But as he's exploring, he just noticed that there's this one woman dream figure just kept following him around. And finally he turned and asked her, who are you? What do you represent? And it said, I represent your brain, and I've come here to tell you to stop smoking because it bothers us.
Oh, that's freaky.
And that's when he had to respond. I remember, so what one night, I'm asleep, and I find myself in a farmhouse in the southern United States, sitting at the farm table, and the farm wife puts beans on my plate, and suddenly it strikes me, this is just too weird. I don't live in the South. I don't live in a farm, and I realize I'm dreaming. And at that moment, I could feel something behind me, someone behind me, and I turn around, and it's a young, attractive black woman, and she's smiling at me. I pick her up and I put her right in front of me, and I ask her, "Who are you? Who are you?" And she replies, "I am a discarded aspect of yourself." And as a lucid dreamer, I think, God, how do you respond to a discarded aspect of yourself? And so I think, well, if she's discarded, she wants to be accepted. She wants to be totally accepted. And so from my heart, I just totally accept this dream figure. And as I start just sending her all this sense of acceptance and complete acceptance, she begins to shrink down. And finally, I accepted her so much that she became light, that then entered my body and gave me such a jolt that I literally woke up in bed. And in the morning, I realized I was energetically different, but it took me about a week. And then that's when I realized that every day since that dream, I'd been thinking I should try to write that book on lucid dreaming, that project I discarded 2 years ago, but because I couldn't do it. And I'll tell you, Joe, in this lucid dream, I reintegrated with that energy of my first attempt to try to write a book on lucid dreaming. I got in about 50 pages and couldn't do it. And when I reintegrated with that energy, when I reaccepted that energy, then that gave me the energy to write my first book that's in like its 13th or 14th printing and getting translated all around the world. So again, the important thing is always ask a dream figure an open-ended question. Who are you? What do you represent? And then the second thing is always follow the energy. If you feel energy behind you, Carl Jung would say that the shadow, the denied, ignored, repressed parts of the self often were in the shadow's position right behind you, like this woman was. It's the part of yourself that you're ignoring. And in this case, it was a creative part of myself that I was kind of denying because I'd given it a try and couldn't make it happen.
Oh, I love this. You're getting supremely nerdy right now. This is fantastic.
When you get into it, when you start interacting with these dream figures, start sending them what they need and watch them change, it'll begin to change what's going on inside your head. And when that's where the battle is really occurring. You think the battle's out there, it's with the neighbors, it's with your parents, it's with your brother and sister, it's with the wife, it's whatever. That's not where the battle is. The battle is really occurring in your head. It's your own beliefs, your own expectations, your own focus and intent, your own view of what's possible, and also your fears as well. Well, lucid dreaming taught me that I had to start facing my fears, that I couldn't spend my entire life in my comfort zone, that I was going to live in this really small world if I just, always stayed in this little comfort zone. And to grow my space, I needed to begin to confront my fears. And boy, lucid dreaming, one of the major authors of dream yoga books, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, who wrote the Tibetan Yogas of Dream and Sleep, he said the path of lucid dreaming is a path of fearlessness because you learn that these things are a projection of your mind, and the worst thing to do is fight them or run from them. You've got to learn about them, you got to understand them, and then you got to figure out a way to resolve them. And normally the way to resolve them is give them what they lack. If they're angry, give them peace. If they need love, give it to them, because that's the only way you're going to get it resolved and move forward.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Jung, because the subconscious is something I've been really obsessed with. When I found out that we only, we're pretty much run by our subconscious. I think the larger percentage of what we do is run by our programming and our subconscious. We think we got everything under control and we know so much and we're these fantastic, intelligent people that got everything under control. But the truth is our subconscious is running all of our beliefs, all the stuff in the background, all of what we think about. And so you got to learn to reprogram that. And you're saying like Jung did, right? He figured out how to do it with his dreams. But he went deeper than that. He went to a place that seemed freaky to some. I mean, he really believed that you could affect your dream world, through your physical life or vice versa and really, really change things. Now, I'm not saying it's freaky. I believe it too. It's just some people they lean back a little bit when you start saying stuff like that, you know?
Well, your dream life certainly affects your waking life. I mean, that's why people say someone wound up on the wrong side of the bed or something in the morning. You know, they had some dream where something went wrong and it kind of colors the rest of their day. But your waking life can also really color your dream life as well. And that's why the beautiful thing about becoming lucidly aware, you realize it's a dream and you can finally begin to figure out what it's all about, because it's truly profound. But I think the most incredible thing that happened to me 10 years into lucid dreaming was I realized that besides the dream figures, there's an awareness behind the dream that you could contact. And when I made that discovery back in 1985, it really changed my way of dealing with lucid dreams. Often after that, I just ignore the dream figures unless they were really powerful or intense or something. I would just ignore the dream figures.
The man, like the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain,
Yeah, it's basically like that. And so if someone's out there listening and they're a good lucid dreamer, here'd be an example. Just next time you become lucid, just stabilize the lucid dream and just shout out, "Hey dream, show me something important for me to see." And sometimes the entire dream will change. Sometimes just one little thing will happen. But I remember one time I was home over the holidays and I met my niece, Jane. She's about 20 years old at the time. And I asked her, had you ever had any lucid dreams? And she told me, that she'd had 10 or 15, but they didn't mean anything. And so I asked her, well, what are you doing in your lucid dreams? And she said, well, if I'm in a bad part of town, I'll fix up the buildings and I'll plant flowers and paint up the buildings and stuff. And I thought, oh my God, a lucid dream decorator. That's what my niece is. But I told her, if you want to find out if lucid dreams have meaning, the next time you become lucidly aware, just shout out to the dream, "Hey dream, show me something important for me to see." And to make a long story short, about a month later, she called me up and she said she did that. And as soon as she did that in a lucid dream, suddenly this blue hallway appeared. And at the end of it was a little white-haired lady. She walked down there and she realized it was her great-grandmother who had passed away when she was like 4 years old. And her great-grandmother says, "Jane, it's so nice to see you and you have such wonderful timing." And Jane said, what do you mean I have wonderful timing? And the great-grandmother says, "Oh, I get out of purgatory tomorrow." And my little niece was so unchurched, she had to ask me, what is this purgatory thing that my great-grandmother was saying something about? But they went on and had a conversation, and at the end of it, her great-grandmother told my niece in the lucid dream, "I want you to tell your mom to remember the back room in Grandma's house." And my niece asked her, "What?" And she said again, "I want you to tell your mom to remember the back room in Grandma's house." And so Jane wakes up. She gives me a call. She says, "What do I do with this?" I said, "You're the one who wanted to know if lucid dreams have meaning. You got to call up your mom and tell her this lucid dream and ask her what's the deal with the back room in great-grandma's house." She calls up her mom. Her mom hears the story and bursts into tears. Her mom says that the most happiest moments occurred in the back room of Grandma's house, because she'd have all the cousins and grandkids come over every Saturday, and they could dress up as kings and queens and princesses, and there were no rules in the back room of Grandma's house. And so when you have a moment like that, Jane asks, "Show me something important for me to see," and she meets her deceased great-grandmother. It just shows you that you're contacting a broader aspect of your awareness. You're getting in touch with what I'd say is your inner self, and you'll begin to see how incredibly creative, wise, and knowledgeable it is, and it'll just totally blow your mind.
Why do you think it does that, though? Why do you think it stays behind the curtain? I mean, why do you think that it doesn't just come out and show itself?
I think what it is, it's a teacher. It's a teacher. And so the teacher can't solve all your problems for you, because otherwise you won't learn. If the teacher solves all the problems, then you'll just sit there, like a schlep and never learn anything. You'll never grow as a person. You'll never have your own ideas. And so that's why this awareness behind the dream, when you reach out to it responds. But otherwise, normally it's in the background and doesn't really, it might be providing dream figures. It might be providing dream situations that make us use our talents and creativity. But in a lucid dream, you can call out to it and request to even have experiences, even conceptual experiences. For example, I was out in London giving talks, and people said, well, could you use lucid dreaming to find God or to contact Buddha? And I told them, what will happen is you'll get so excited that you'll wake up. And so it just doesn't pay to do it. But I told them, if you want to have a spiritual experience, then do this. Become lucidly aware and shout out, hey, dream, let me experience unconditional love. And I'll tell you, the next experience you have is going to be so profound, it'll shake you. That's how powerful it'll be. So I came back to London about 6 months later. A woman stood up and said that in a lucid, she had heard me talk previously. In her next lucid dream, she shouted out, hey, dream, let me experience unconditional love. She said the resulting experience was so profound. She said that when she woke up from the lucid dream, she cried tears of joy for 15 minutes because she had never thought that love, unconditional love, could be that deep and profound. And so again, if you want to blow your mind, ask to experience a concept like, hey, dream, let me experience complete one-ment or complete atonement. Hey, dream, let me experience a moment of samadhi, and see where it takes you. Because I'll tell you, that's how this larger awareness can begin to educate you. But like a teacher, it'll wait until you're ready for the lesson. And if the lesson is too powerful, you can always say stop, cancel, can't take it, because sometimes the energy of these conceptual experiences is so powerful that I mean it literally stuns people. I mean they're just not used to that depth
I can
of
imagine.
creativity.
I'm kind of afraid. It's making me afraid right now when
nothing to
talking
be afraid
about it.
of.
Well,
can't grow.
Not afraid like, cowardly afraid, but just, you're right. Anytime we have fear, that's where we need to go. And a lot of times in our life to get outside our comfort zone.
Yeah, exactly.
But I want to talk to you about something. And this happens to people. They report it to me quite a bit. Some freaky stuff, right? And we'll go there for a second, but, Eyes Open in the chat is saying, well, what's your opinion, Robert, on when, say, like an entity or a dream figure or whatever touches you in a lucid dream, and then when you wake up, you've got a physical mark on your body where you were just touched in that dream?
Yeah, so you're right. There's some strange things that can happen, and that might be one of them. So what I would say is that the vast majority of dream figures are projections of our own energy, and you can show that to yourself by changing your mind. So if you send the love, do the angry dog and watch it shrink down, then you realize, it's a projection of my mind because I'm changing my mind and it changes. But you do realize as you go deeper into lucid dreaming that all dream figures are not created equal. And there's some dream figures who, like I remember one time I became lucidly aware, fell out of a car, thought about flying up to the stars, but then I thought, why should I go to all that work? And I yelled out, hey stars, pull me up. And suddenly I felt this hand around my wrist, and it pulled me up into the night sky. We just went flying higher and higher, and it was pretty wild. And eventually I saw that it was a young woman who was pulling me up. She told me what her name was when I asked, and then she told me that she was always in my lucid dreams, watching me. She's always there to help. And so when you have those kind of moments, they are a little bit strange. So you realize that there's another level of dream figures that lucid dreamers call independent agents, because they seem to have a will and a direction and a kind of an awareness of their own. And so with those dream figures, you have to kind of open up a dialogue and kind of check things out.
Do people come to you a lot and ask you, I had this dream? I bet they do, don't they? I had this dream. What does it mean?
Sure.
Right? They do that a lot.
Sure. And I love dreams. You know, when I go home on the holidays and I'm talking to my young nieces and nephews, you know, who might be 12, 13, 14. I mean, I'll ask them, how are things going? Great. How are your friends? Good. I mean, they'll give me these monosyllabic responses to my questions, but if I want to find out what's going on in their life, I ask them, tell me a dream you've had recently, because in that dream, I'll hear more about what's going on in their life truly than what they'd ever tell Uncle Robert in the waking state. So I'm always happy when people tell me dreams, because dreams are really a window into the soul.
Yeah, I believe that too, and I'm glad you said that, because at first I thought it was going to be an entire scientific discussion, but you really, well, let me ask you this: you really believe in some type of spiritual realm, don't you? I mean, based on your experiences, has it validated something like that to you more?
I have to say that if people use lucid dreaming the way that I'm using lucid dreaming, they'd say that they would see that the unconscious isn't just a dumping ground of past memories and forgotten impressions and all that kind of stuff, that in the unconscious is our connection to our larger awareness. I mean, it's actually in many respects kind of our spiritual connection. It's where our greater creativity, our greater knowing comes from. And so by virtue of all this lucid dreaming and interacting with that, I have to say that this spiritual realm, I think, might someday, if lucid dreaming would get more attention, especially from science, we might scientifically discover the basis of spirituality, and it's connecting with our inner self in lucid dreams.
Fantastic. And, I've gotten a lot of text ins. This night is flying by. We're already into the third hour here. So look, I'll ask these questions when we come back. Of course, I'm going to ask about some practical things. I promise. We're with Robert Waggoner. Go check out the books too at lucidadvice.com. Go check out the website, look at both books, and they're also on Audible, which is my favorite place to listen to books. We'll be right back.
This is Sammy. Join us in the Deep South as we're lighting the void with Joe Roop on the Fringe FM.
Did you know that qualified patients can access medical cannabis in all 50 states? CannaSense is a medical cannabis collective that helps patients in all 50 states gain access to cannabis medication. CannaSense does this with a streamlined process and strict compliance with the Compassionate Use Act of 1996, the Affordable Care Act, and the U.S. Constitution. It is important for each patient to understand the legalities involved, the costs, and the benefits of cannabis medication. Through truth, legalization, and education, the medical benefits of cannabis will supplant recreational perceptions, and the real vision for change will be realized. Let the people and their personal doctors take control of their medical cannabis decisions before the greed of big business takes over. The tipping point for change is today, and CannaSense is ready to lead the charge and enable legal access for all qualified patients to medical cannabis through its proven system. For more information, go to thefringe.fm/care or click the banner on the website today.
Yohoy there, Gigi here from Shift Happens. Do you like to boogie down to topics such as ufology, the occult, and the mysteries behind our reality? Well, I invite you to join us every Friday night at 7 p.m. Pacific, that's 10 p.m. Eastern, as we like to punch that curiosity button and tickle that fancy. We tickle that fancy, but yeah, I don't know if that's the right analogy, but there's certainly a lot of tickling going on over here at Shift Happens.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
AncientLifeOil.com. For your CBD needs, just remember, AncientLifeOil.com. What does it do for the body, you ask? I can't say due to the people in the suits that run the industry. Big Pharma's all over CBD because of its well, you know what I mean. Research the benefits of CBD on Google and come back to AncientLifeOil.com and purchase your CBD today. Non-GMO and all organic. You don't want to be using a petroleum product. You want to be using the cleanest CBD product on the market. AncientLifeOil.com. We even have CBD for your pet. Help your pet's discomfort. Help your discomfort. Log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Newly reduced prices to pass off the savings to the most important person. You. AncientLifeOil.com. And one more thing. We have topicals too. So if you have joint pain and some different issues that are going on in your body, you might want to use a topical. Think about it. AncientLifeOil.com.
Alex Exum.
This is Alex Exum of the Exum Experience in Live Talk, where we discuss current events, society, and culture. My shows are based in actuality, actual existence, contrasted with what was intended, expected, or believed. You can listen to me live Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays at 7 p.m. only on KTLK, The Fringe FM.
You are listening to The Fringe FM, and I'm Michael Deacon reminding you can find my show right here on The Fringe FM every Sunday night at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, or by going to michaeldeacon.com. The choice is yours.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
When I'm done running with the wolves after hunting down a half-ton bison, I look forward to a mind-teetering escapade evening on The Fringe FM.
To call Joe, pick up the phone, dial 1-800-588-0335, toll free from the United States or Canada.
Very cool show tonight. Getting to talk about lucid dreaming with Robert Waggoner. It's kind of like one of the cool things I like about being a late night radio host is I get to talk to people that are very, very adept in this field. I mean, Robert has spent the majority of his life into studying lucid dreaming and wrote a couple of fantastic books on it. And don't forget, you can go to the website for reference, lucidadvice.com. And Robert, we're going to get into some rapid fires, maybe just questions about practical stuff, but we do have a caller from the Portland area. I think I know who this is. Caller, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, it's JD. Cool. Do you have a question for Robert?
Actually, I do. I wanted to relate to him an out-of-body. I can't talk. An out-of-body. I can't say out-of-body experience. Third time lucky, huh?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sure, go ahead.
And Dr. Waggoner, I'm assuming you are a doctor, correct?
No, I'm just a guy who reads a lot of books, so I don't have a
guy. It's okay. I mean, it's good. Even you do have social work as a background. I'm making that assumption as well.
I'm a dreamer, so and a lucid dreamer. But yeah, go on with your experience.
Okay, so I lived in Longview, Washington at the time that I had my lucid dream, and it was an out-of-body experience. I guess you would coin it as astral projected, and I was getting quite good at doing so. And at one of these occasions, I ended up in a primordial kind of state, hanging out, and I met Robin Williams, of all people. This is some years ago, and Whoopi Goldberg, and they were hanging out. Okay, so we're hanging out in this lucid state of being in an astral, out-of-body world, and the next thing I know, we were talking about not needing anything to fly, like no apparatus or wings or anything. You could just fly at will, which was really amazingly cool. So as I'm sitting within this primordial being phase of whatever this was, there was something that interfered with this perfection, and it was like a knife cut through this primordial perfection, and it terrified. So there was fear. There was like a lot of fear. Then it was like Whoopi's gone, Robin's gone, and I'm coming back in through my feet. I felt my body or my inner self return in through my body, and as I did, the force of how I came back in blew out an electrical circuit in the building that I lived in, and this wall caught on fire, and all this residual energy carried in through. And I'm wondering, how real was, this energy flux? That's what I want to know. I want to know how real the energy flux was. I guess I'm asking you if you've had anyone come to you and say, hey, I woke up and my house was on fire. Just, it exploded.
If you had something crazy that seemed like energetically that happened like that after.
Yeah. Again, I really have gone deep into lucid dreaming, and I've kind of let OBEs just kind of languish on the side. So I don't really have any experiences with this kind of thing, but it sounds like it must have been quite a powerful experience in order to blow out the electrical circuit and maybe have fire marks or whatever on the wall. So
no, the thing actually blew up in the wall and caught on fire. There was fire.
Oh wow!
That boomed, and I got up out of the room and walked out of this place and down to a next door neighbor's, and I said, my wall's on fire, can you help me? So it was really freaky, scary.
I'd go to a priest.
I was having a good time. Lucid dreaming and astral projection and hanging out, and the next thing you know, it was like somebody took a knife and popped my happy bubble along with everybody else's happy little bubble. So I don't know what I'm trying to get at. I'm just saying it does.
The only other thing, and people have noticed this before in their dream life, is that sometimes outside noises or events get brought into their dream state. You know what I'm saying? So like if they hear ambulance outside, at 2:00 in the morning, all of a sudden in their dream state, there's an ambulance or something. So what I'm saying here is that potentially the electrical circuit was blowing up and was goofy, and that's when the knife cut through the scene and you found yourself coming back in through your feet and all that. So it might have occurred in that sort of manner, but again, it's a pretty incredible experience.
You don't claim to be an expert on stuff like that. That's pretty intense. That would, Yeah. I would call Pastor Larry Paul and say, I've got a story for you. Can you come down here? That's what I would do.
Pastor who?
Larry Paul. He lives down the street, right next to the church. That's what we do in the South. We call our pastors when stuff like that happens. I don't have a priest around here.
Thanks for taking the call.
Pretty intense.
Okay, thanks JD.
Wow, that is insane. Yeah, I would definitely be wondering about that too. But yeah, again, lucid dreaming is a bit different than the out of body experience. I think both can be just as powerful though, especially
I think so.
For practical things. And people are bringing up in the Fringe FM chat how you were talking to agents, right? And that's something I've never experienced before. Like,
well, I call them independent agents, and that's how a lot of lucid dreamers would refer to them, but because they seem to have their own will and focus, and a lot of times you look them in the eye, and they just seem to have so much knowledge and all. I mean, it's also what happens sometimes when you interact with deceased dream figures. So you see Uncle Bill, and you think, wait a second, Uncle Bill died 10 years ago. Then you realize, oh, this must be a dream if Uncle Bill is here. And sometimes when Uncle Bill acts with such, he's come to tell you something, he tells you something, when you wake up, you can verify that it's true. It's knowledge outside of your own knowing. Then that's when you have another case of independent agents where you realize that dream figures are more complicated, that all dream figures are not created equal, that there's some dream figures that are just different, and you can tell by the amount of knowledge or their actions or seeming awareness.
All right, I got one for you. I'll take this opportunity while I have it. I have a recurring dream that sometimes I become lucid, sometimes I don't, of gunfights, right? And these gunfights typically happen in my home or somewhere around my home, and I'm always doing good, right, in the gunfight. Kind of like Rambo. I'm always just taking them out. But in the end, there's always this Demogorgon-like figure that ends up getting the best of me. For example, the last dream I had, I took all of the GIs out or whatever, and I propped myself up on the bed. I got into the corner of my room, propped myself up on the bed. I never run out of ammo either. Anyways, but I propped myself up in the bed, and I could see the shadow of this thing coming. And I'm like, oh, here he comes again. And I kept having to tell myself, I've done this before. This is a dream, right?
Right.
Don't let him get the best of you this time. And so I rushed to the doorway as he was rushing in, and we kind of grabbed arms. And we were both holding pistols. Where I got the pistol from, I don't know. And we're trying to turn the pistols in towards each other's heads, right? And he happens to turn the pistol a little bit faster, and I look over, pulls the trigger, and it kills me. And I woke up, and I was like, dang, he killed me again. Now, I wasn't scared. I wasn't full of fear, but I can't ever get the best of this thing. What's that about?
We'd probably have to figure this one offline, and
that one's going to take some couch time, huh?
Yeah, that might take a little bit of head shrinking. So anyway, but it's a good one. It's a good one. But again, the next time you become lucidly aware and you realize, wait a second, I've done this before. I got to get this figured out. I'd ask the Demogorgon, who are you? What do you represent? And sometimes when you hear it respond, then you go, oh my God, I finally understand what this is all about. Because again, if you fight it, if you run from it, you're really not learning too much. But if you become lucid and ask it a question, who are you? What do you represent? And then you learn, you finally go, oh my God, I get it. So
gotcha.
that'd be my recommendation. That'd be my recommendation.
I will. I'm going to do that next time I see the shadow coming down the hall. I'm going to say, hey, let's talk for a minute. You want to? Right?
Exactly. Let's talk this thing out.
I mean, that's what you're saying. These things represent something that we need to figure it out. We need to figure out what that is.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if they're recurring, if they're recurring, it's probably some recurring issue. So it's, again, if a gunfight took care of it, well, after the first gunfight, it would have been resolved. But again, if you fight things or run from them, you don't learn anything. You got to ask them lucidly, who are you, what do you represent, and pay attention to that response and see where it goes from there.
Yeah. So people are asking more questions about the kind of the darker stuff, like, but do you believe in the darker type dreams being actually influenced by outside entities, like special ops type training dreams? We did kind of talk about that earlier, that there are studies where people have influenced each other's dreams, but as far as darker intentions or what they are, I don't know. I don't think you would have any clue about that, would you?
Yeah, no, I don't have any clue about that. I just don't think most of us are that important that we would merit that kind of attention. I do remember one time, though, I became lucidly aware, and I decided I was going to see my friend, try to interact with my friend Ed, who's the lucid dreamer who told me all the people who were at the table. So I became lucid, and I decided, I'm going to fly out to Ed's place and see what he's dreaming about. And so if you can imagine, I'm lucidly aware and I'm flying through darkness, and then it's like I hit this impenetrable barrier. I can't go any further. And I'm thinking, wow, I've never experienced this in a lucid dream before. I can't go any further. So in the morning, I called up Ed and I told him what happened. I said, last night I became lucid and I decided I was going to try to come find you. And he goes, what happened? And I said, well, that's the weird thing. I flew through all this darkness and then I hit this impenetrable barrier. And he said, oh, this is wonderful. And I said, what's that? He said, last night I was doing a dream experiment. And so I told myself, tonight in my dreams, I do not want to be bothered by any outside influences. And he said he made that a major focus before he went to sleep, that he was doing an experiment, so he didn't want to be bothered from any outside influences. And so I think if a person is worried about being bothered by outside influences, that's all they have to do. Just tell themselves, tonight in my dreams, I will only respond to constructive influences and suggestions from myself and others, something like that. And in that way, if you're concerned about improper influences from others, you won't be bothered.
Yeah, and look, it's not that it's not important to talk about at all. Maybe we need to recognize, like you're talking about, our own power in these worlds.
Yeah, exactly. Because I also had another person who told me that they came to one of my lucid dream workshops, and then the woman told me that a month or two later she became lucid, and she decided that she was going to fly to the White House and try to influence President Obama in her lucid dream so that he would be more supportive of environmental laws and all that kind of stuff. And I asked her what happened. And she said it was really incredible. She said she made it to Washington, D.C. in her lucid dream, and she was flying up to the White House, and then it was like there was this impenetrable barrier. She couldn't get beyond it. And she asked me what I thought that was all about. And I don't know. I don't know what it's all about. But all that I'm saying is, just like you said a moment ago, I think we all have the capacity to filter, to let in things that appeal to us, to let in things that we believe in, and also to shut down any outside non-constructive influences or suggestions. Right. But we just have to kind of make that our mental rule, that we refuse to let in outside unhelpful influences or suggestions.
Yeah, and if I'm being perfectly honest with you guys, I've talked to people that are just totally scientific about this. I've also talked to people that are heads of magical societies, and look, they all say the same thing. They all say that fear is running the muck. Fear is what's keeping you from realizing your own power in these realms, right? And once you realize your own power, it doesn't matter who or what's trying to influence you, they're not going to be able to. Now that's easier said than done, of course, obviously, but, and I think that's what a lot of people struggle with, Robert, is overcoming some of these fears,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you believe in your fear, you kind of empower it and give it more energy. And that's the beautiful thing about lucid dreaming. You begin to see that your belief makes things possible. If you believe that you can fly through that wall, you can fly through that wall because that wall is made of dream stuff. But if you believe you're going to have trouble, you'll try to fly through that wall and you'll bounce off of it, even though on another level you realize it's just a dream. It's a dream wall. So again, your beliefs really matter, and that's one thing that you learn in lucid dreaming is you got to really understand what your beliefs are, and also how your beliefs support and also constrain your life.
Yeah, can I ask you about that too? Based on your experience, the people that have a faith, right? And it doesn't matter what their faith is, versus people that are just, I don't want to say nihilistic, but people that are just open to anything and everything. Have you noticed that people with a belief or a faith in something tend to have better control of what's going on?
Well, I think they approach things a little bit differently if you have a sense of faith, because it certainly really helps. But I'll tell you, some people really have their minds blown. I was interviewing this guy for my magazine, the Lucid Dreaming Experience, and he said one time in a lucid dream, seated across from him was this Indian-looking guy with a turban, and my friend became lucidly aware. And then the Indian guy with the turban kept asking, "What is my name? What is my name?" And the lucid dreamer was thinking, I know this guy, but what is his name? What is his name? And finally, it took him this real struggle, and finally he said, Nanak. It came to him. The guy's name was Nanak. And then the dream figure smiled and started talking to the guy about his spiritual life in this lucid dream and about how he could progress even more rapidly in his spiritual life. The guy woke up. So this guy is a engineer by training. The guy woke up and he Google searched Nanak, and Nanak was the head of the Sikh religion. And this guy said he had no knowledge of anything about the Sikh religion, and he was stunned to realize that in a lucid dream, he apparently met the head of the Sikh religion. And I bet if he would look into what the beliefs of the Sikh religion are, he would see that he shares many of those kind of similar beliefs. But I'll tell you, a lot of lucid dreamers have their minds blown because things will happen in lucid dreams. They'll hear words in languages that they don't speak, or they'll meet figures from other places or time, and it really blows your mind when those kind of things happen. But again, I don't care necessarily if people have faith as much as I care that they have a sense of openness to experience and an ability to look through things. I have a fundamental faith, but I don't require it of everyone. I just want them to have an openness to experience and an ability to kind of explore and find out for themselves.
Yeah, I think where this is coming from is a lot of people, there's two ideas here, right? That everything is a part of consciousness, and we've discussed this before, and that then everything's not, that there's separate entities and separate things that can affect you that really aren't a part of you at all. And that's a big esoteric subject. That's kind of a broad stroke of the things we've been talking about. But I mean, 30 years of lucid dreaming experience, you're telling me that basically every time you've faced your fear, it's turned out pretty good for you. Yeah. And again, you see that you exist in an interconnected oneness. If your focus is on dark stuff and difficult stuff, you'll pull that into your lucid dream. If your focus is on sexual adventures, you'll pull that into your lucid dreams. I mean, the lucid dream state is very mentally reflective. It's going to reflect in many respects where your head is at. And so it's important to learn where your head's at, because you might not even be aware of where your head's at. But again, if you understand the principles and explore things,
you can begin to make progress much more rapidly. And that's why I try to give people, 30 or 40 years of experience distilled in some books so that people can really explore things in a thoughtful way and not kind of just stumble around and not investigate their own beliefs or their own thinking.
Yeah, I think too. I mean, we're talking about a subject that, look, if you had 150 years, you probably couldn't master it. I mean, you may be better at it than a lot of people, right? But this is a deep subject. This is like the unknown, like Star Trek says.
Yeah, you're getting down to some pretty basic stuff. You really are. But that's one of the things that I like about having lucid dreamers interact with this larger awareness, this awareness behind the dream. Because when you realize that you have that ally in the lucid dream experience, it just changes things. You realize that there's more than the ego going on there, and once you have that, then that's a quantum leap forward.
Yeah, and I promise people practical stuff. What that we got into that conversation. So from what I've learned, and maybe you can help with this, is if we do things in our daily life that'll help us, it's kind of like we're training our subconscious to be aware in our dreams, right? Am I right about that? Like, try to go out.
Right.
Go ahead.
I'll tell you how I first taught myself how to lucid dream in 1975. And so this is 5 or 6 years before the scientific evidence came out. I was reading a book by Carlos Castaneda. The book was called Journey to Ixtlan. And so Castaneda, of course, he was a UCLA graduate student who went down to Arizona to try to to meet a shaman or somebody who would teach him about psychoactive substances. But in this book, his shamanic teacher, Don Juan, tells him that he could find his hands in the dream state and then realize he's dreaming and become lucidly aware. And there wasn't a technique, and so I just kind of made my own technique. And so this is what I did, and anyone listening can do this. So what I'd do, each night before I'd go to sleep, I'd spend about 5 minutes, and I'd put my hands right in front of my face, and I'd look at my hands while I was saying over and over softly in my mind, tonight in my dreams I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. Tonight in my dreams I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. Tonight in my dreams I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. And I'd say that for about 5 minutes. I mean, it's kind of a boring thing to say, but I did that for about 5 minutes and fall asleep. On the third night of doing this, I'm walking through my high school hallway, and all of a sudden, just like they're spring-loaded, my hands pop right in front of my face, and I go, oh, my hands, this is a dream. And suddenly I realize, these football player guys over here, they're dream figures. And that this wall over here that felt so cool and nubby, it's a dream creation. And I went on to have just an incredible lucid dream, that first one. But that's how I did it. I made the sight of my hands kind of the cue or the stimulus or the prompt that would make me think, oh, this is a dream. And so just do it five minutes a night before you go to sleep. Maybe during the day, look at your hands for just a little bit, thinking, oh, tonight in my dreams, when I see my hands, I'll realize I'm dreaming. And so all that happens, your hands pop in front of your face, or you might be opening a door or climbing a ladder, see your hands, and then you realize, hey, this is a dream. I'm dreaming this. So that's how I got started. That was one of my fundamental techniques, and a lot of people have used that technique to have their first lucid dream.
Yeah, and look, we're going to continue to talk about this. We only got just a few minutes left with Robert here, so I want to really get down to the practical stuff, because first and foremost, we got to figure out how to do this so that we can better our lives and our dream lives too. We'll be right back.
I'm Ryan Gable, and I want to remind you to keep your radio, phone, tablet, or computer tuned to The Fringe FM, and visit the website thefringe.fm to listen to the entire lineup of shows. You can also catch my broadcast, The Secret Teachings, Monday through Friday, beginning at 12 a.m. midnight U.S. Pacific Time, right here on The Fringe FM.
Okay, here we go. AncientLifeOil.com. AncientLifeOil.com. Now, this is for CBD. AncientLifeOil.com. Again, for CBD. Where do I get CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. It's pretty good stuff. Organic, non-GMO. We are the Ferrari of CBDs. AncientLifeOil.com. You know, they say when you mention a person's name 3 times when you first meet, that you're going to remember. So I'd say to you, nice to meet you, AncientLifeOil.com. It's AncientLifeOil.com, right? Nice to know that you help people. AncientLifeOil.com. Think about this. Occasional stress, occasional anxiety, occasional inflammation, occasional stiffness, and intruders that get you down. AncientLifeOil.com. Okay, so I'm going to give you a fact for the day. So Ancient Life Oil does not help you with business deals. Hold on a second. If you feel better, it could help you make a better decision. Okay, I'm wrong. Just remember to go to AncientLifeOil.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of The Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
We all have that story to tell in our lives. The winds were howling. The ground shook. You could hear rushing water. And then history repeats itself. When there's no power, refrigeration fails. Stores with their shelves strip bare. ATMs can't operate. Deliveries stop. Then what? These events can last days or weeks. You need a plan. In statements made during recent interviews, FEMA Administrator Brock Long has repeatedly urged all Americans to understand 3 truths. FEMA is broke, the system is broken. If this is the new normal, Americans can't rely on federal cavalry when disaster strikes. Don't get caught out in the elements empty-handed. Prepare with us by going to preparewiththefringe.com and get your 2-week food supply. 92 servings, 8 food varieties with 25-year shelf life. Normally $137. Now only $75. Or get a month's supply, normally $247. Now only $147 shipped in 1 business day. Just go to preparewiththefringe.com or call 888-440-7931. That's 888-440-7931. Get this great offer and be prepared while it lasts.
Greetings, galactic community. This is Suzanne Ross, host of Sci-Spy Radio, every Wednesday evening from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific. Join me for this brand new show featuring a revolutionary new genre, Sci-Spy, merging science and spirituality to give us answers to the greatest mysteries of creation. Together, scientific discovery and spiritual revelation reveal the truth about who we are, where we came from, why we're here, and where we're going. Tune in to Sci-Spy Radio every Wednesday from 5 to 7 p.m. Pacific and discover the truth for yourself at thefringe.fm.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you're interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Well, when it comes to being a better or more effective explorer of consciousness, we have to talk about lucid dreaming. It can't all just be meditation and out-of-body experiences and stuff. Lucid dreaming is very important. It's a very big role when it comes to exploring consciousness. And I think one of the coolest things about lucid dreaming is we can do what we want. We can become what we want. We can experience what we want. And even the scary stuff we talked about, we have the power. Let's keep in mind that it's the dream world, that we have the power to get rid of this stuff if we want to. I do worry about how much we feed the ego, but we've already talked about that. And we're with Robert Waggoner. The website is lucidadvice.com. Go check it out. It's for reference tonight. He's wrote 2 books on this subject. He spent the majority of his life talking and studying lucid dreaming. And I wanted to talk here in the last part of the program about the practical uses of this. I mean, because if we can't do it, or, how to learn how to do it, because if we can't do it, what's the point, right? So first thing is get the books, because I think if we get your books, then we'll definitely know how to do it, right? I mean, you go through that quite a bit. Yeah,
the book that has all the tips and techniques is Lucid Dreaming Plain and Simple. And then the book Lucid Dreaming Gateway to the Inner Self, it kind of follows how I went deeper and deeper and deeper into lucid dreaming after about 30 years, and has all the chapters on like physical healing in lucid dreams, interacting with deceased dream figures, mutual lucid dreams, and all that kind of advanced stuff. Because the thing that I wanted to do was get people to realize you can do so much more than just fly around and have fun. There's some really profound spiritual practices and other things that you can do in lucid dreaming. So that's in the first book, but the tips and techniques are in the second book.
Very cool. And I was reading a book. This was more of an esoteric book. It was a Gnostic book about it was called Dream Yoga. And here's one of the techniques it told me to do, which I thought, man, this is crazy, right? People are going to laugh at me, but it told me to go outside and try to fly, right? In my real life, go outside, try to fly. So I'd go outside and try to fly. And then I thought the neighbors are going to think I'm crazy, but okay. Because I wanted to do this so bad. So I'd go out in my front yard, look up at a tree and try to fly. And if someone was outside looking in, they'd see this short, kind of chubby redneck looking guy really reaching on his toes, looking up. It would look insane. But the thing is I tried it a few times and it worked, right? I mean, it wasn't just a few nights after that I caught myself in the same situation. And it actually helped lead to an out-of-body experience too. So how important are these things that we do in our daily life? Like, is there any other way to do it besides those type of things?
Well, I mean, in dream work, they call that continuity theory. That what we think about and do during the day continues on in the dream state. And so, if during the day you're thinking about trying to fly and imagining yourself trying to fly, then there's a good chance that in the dream state you're going to fly, or and maybe become lucid as a result. So yeah, that's. But it really is important, what you're focusing on during the day will really determine what you focus on in the dream state. And also if you're being more mindfully aware, so you're kind of critically observing things, like you started out with that inception piece, and in that inception piece, the one character is asking the other, how did you get here? And then the young lady's trying to remember, how did I get here? And that's a technique that some people use to become lucidly aware. 10 times a day, they'll ask themselves, how did I get here? Oh, yeah, I was just at my friend's house and I drove down the road. But then in the dream state, they'll ask themselves, how did I get here? And they'll think, wait a second, I don't live in Paris. How did I get to Paris? Oh, this must be a dream. And so you can use that kind of critical questioning to help you become lucidly aware. But you have to practice it. And that's one of the things about lucid dreaming, that it's an incredible thing to do, but you got to practice it.
Yeah, I think that's what I've said too about the out of body experience is like lucid dreaming, whatever, the out of body experience. We really got to practice this stuff. What about the light switch? Is that just a myth where people say, flip the lights on and off? If you do it enough, it'll happen. You'll do it in the dream and realize, that, okay.
Yeah. It's for some people, light switch and some of those things, it's, the light switch phenomenon. If they turn on the light switch and the lights don't work, then they ask themselves, am I dreaming? And then they do what you might call a reality check. So a reality check might be, if you jump up and you levitate, then this is a dream. Or if you reach over and start pulling your left index finger and you watch your finger grow twice as long as normal, then hey, this is a dream. So you've done a reality check to prove to yourself that you're in the lucid dream state. And so yeah, sometimes people talk about flipping light switches, or they'll look at clocks. So you look at a clock face and then you turn away and look at it again. Oftentimes in the dream, it'll have different numbers, or the hands will be at a different place. And then oh, I'm dreaming. But if it's as it should be, then there's a good chance you're in waking physical reality.
I know that you've got a magazine about this, and I've got a friend named David who's been listening to the show for a long time. And he was one of the first people that made me realize that there are people that, like yourself, that focus on this subject alone. Yeah, sure, mm-hmm. There's a lot of other subjects that are interesting, the out-of-body experience, the esoteric, the occult, UFOs, whatever. But there is a big group of people that are just mainly focused on this experience. And I wonder why that is. Do you think it's because we can do anything and create anything like that? I guess that's a limitless opportunity, right? Do you think that's why people are addicted to it?
I think the unlimited potential just really hooks people. I mean, I've had people, when they realize that smoking certain substances will decrease their dream recall and amount of dream time, and probably make it less likely to become lucid. I mean, I've seen people give up all sorts of habits in order to increase their chances of having a lucid dream. But it's really, once you kind of taste that creativity, and especially when you interact with that larger awareness behind the dream, you just realize that this is really an extraordinary state, and you can really accomplish a lot. And so that's why some people just are so enamored of it.
Oh, wait a minute. We're talking about addictions. You just mentioned addictions and substances and stuff. Now I've got some addictions and stuff. So what do I need? What? Give me some examples here.
Well, I think people who consume a fair amount of alcohol before they go to sleep, I think scientifically it's been shown that they have less REM, so they have less dream time. And I think there's been some studies that have shown the same things with people who smoke marijuana. So by giving those practices up, then you're more likely to have longer dreams, probably more memorable dreams. And for some people, they find that they're more likely to become lucid as well. And so that's why some people have given all that stuff up in order to have more lucid dreams.
So little Debbies are fine, right?
But little Debbies, they work.
Okay, good. I want to make sure, because there's certain things I just can't live without, man. Snack crackers is one of them. No, I'm just playing. But are there certain things that we can take, though, that'll help enhance it? I mean, foods, liquids, anything you can think of?
Yeah, there are at least one supplement that helps people have lucid dreams, and it's the active ingredient in some Alzheimer's drugs. And Alzheimer's drugs, of course, are trying to get people to kind of have greater awareness, or be more aware now. And so it's a supplement that's based on like the red spider lily and some of that. It's a natural supplement. It's called galantamine. But it's one of these things that's a pretty powerful herb, and it's something that you realize don't take it when you fall asleep. You sleep for 4 or 5 hours, then you take it, and then some people say it increases the likelihood of lucid dreaming. I'm not a big proponent of it because it's a pretty heavy-duty herbal substance and all, but for some people it really helps. And there again, a good friend of mine, he did a trial where he got pill cases, and in 10 of the pill cases, he just put cornstarch, and then the other 10 pill cases, he put the galantamine substance, and then he numbered each of the pills and gave them to a friend, and he'd have the friend give him a pill, whenever he requested. And my friend found that he had more lucid dreams when he took the placebo than when he took the supplement. So again, sometimes these things, if you believe in them, then they work. But if you don't, then they don't work. It's just like too. There's also some folks who sell dream masks that you put on your face, and you sleep with a dream mask, and then the dream mask will flash red lights during the night. And hopefully that'll come into your dream state. And when you see red lights, you'll think, oh, red lights. Oh, this means that I'm dreaming, and become lucidly aware. And so sometimes people use that, but there's been a lot of false positives where the machine hasn't worked and the people have become lucid because they saw red lights because they went to sleep expecting to see red lights. And so again, that just shows you the power of belief, the power of expectation.
Yeah, to me, placebo probably has a big time effect on it if you could actually get it to work for you. Placebo subject is a complicated one though. But yeah, that's cool. I was just asking because there's so many people dedicated to the subject. I'm sure you've seen and heard it all. But what do you think the main ingredient is? Is it just daily dedication to doing something to help it?
Well, you definitely got to get your head in the game. So I have a free online magazine at dreaminglucid.com. You can get on there, read the last 10 years of issues, and there are articles about lucid dreaming. Readers submit their own lucid dreams. And by reading those, you kind of get inspired, or you kind of get, you read something and you go, wow, could you really do that in a lucid dream? And then that night, you'll find yourself become lucidly aware, trying to do that thing that you read about in the magazine. And so you really got to get focused on it. It helps to have a technique like looking at your hands before you go to sleep, or maybe just using the power of suggestion. Also in my book, there's a bunch of other techniques. But one thing that's really important to understand too is one of the problems that beginners have. Normally, a beginner, when they become lucid, they get so excited that they wake up. And so I have kind of a 3-part process that I tell people, and you can use the acronym REM to kind of remember it. But the first thing is, when you become lucid, reduce your emotions. So if you're feeling too excited, tell yourself to calm down, or look at something boring like your hands or the floor or whatever. You got to calm down, because if you get too excited, you'll pop out of the lucid dream. So the first thing is reduce your emotions. Then the second thing is you should enhance your awareness. So you become lucid and you stay calm. Then you might want to rub your hands together to kind of get a sense of being more real in the lucid dream state. Or you might touch something to kind of ground yourself in that space, kind of make that space more real. But because by enhancing that kind of sense, it helps you feel more engaged in the lucid dream. Also, you can shout out greater awareness now, or more clarity now. And sometimes it's like someone turns up the lights in the lucid dream when you say more awareness now.
Yeah,
it's like someone turns up the light.
Like William Buellman said, right? Like awareness now. That's what he said.
So this is kind of a crossover from some of the OBE techniques. Then the third thing is you have to maintain your focus. And the reason I say that is the dream state seems real. And when you become lucid and you know it's a dream, as you go around exploring, you might see something and it just all seems so real that you return to regular dreaming. And so that happens a lot with beginners. So again, you want to reduce your emotions, you want to enhance your awareness, and then you want to maintain your focus. Maybe every 20 seconds, tell yourself, this is a dream, I'm dreaming this. Or my friend Lucy, when she becomes lucid, she begins to start singing. She just sings whatever song comes into her head, because as long as she's singing, she knows that it's a lucid dream, because she normally wouldn't be going around singing. So she knows it's a lucid dream. But you got to maintain that focus. And then the final thing is you ought to stop for a second and ask yourself, what did I really want to do? What do I really want to do? Because if you want to heal your knee, and you've read my chapter on that, on healing and physical healing and lucid dreams, then you got to stop and ask yourself, what do I really want to do? Because if you want to heal yourself, you got to focus, you got to do the things that I suggest in that chapter to accomplish that. Or if you want to do emotional healing, if you want to access creativity, if you want to interact with that awareness behind the dream, shout out, hey dream, show me something important for me to see. But if you do that kind of thing, I mean, it took me about 5 or 10 years of practice by myself to understand, to reduce my emotions, to enhance my awareness, to maintain my focus, and then to think about what did I want to do. It took me a long time to figure out this process. And if you can figure it out in the first few lucid dreams, you're really moving ahead. I remember one time I on my Lucid Advice site, people can send in experiences or ask questions. And this guy sent in this incredible lucid dream. And I wrote him back and I said, boy, how long have you been a lucid dreamer? 10 years or something? And he goes, no, this is my 26th lucid dream. And I go, this is your 26th lucid dream? How'd you do this? And he said, I read your book and I used all the principles in your book. And it's just like, oh my gosh, if you understand the principles and use them, you can really just shoot ahead just incredibly fast. It's truly amazing.
So if I wanted to learn the techniques, I would probably need to get that book, the plain and simple one first, right?
Yeah, the plain and simple, it has all the techniques and also all this about how to stabilize the dream, how to interact with dream figures successfully. And then it starts to get into some of this other stuff like emotional healing and physical healing and all, but just in kind of a basic way.
So last night we had a talk, a listener, eyes open, talked about how that she couldn't sleep and she would use visualization to sleep, right? So she would picture herself actually in her mind's eye going to sleep and get real vivid about it, laying down, picturing herself in a comfort bed and stuff. Can you use visualization like that to help you with lucid dreaming?
Yep. There's an ancient visualization technique. And so what you do is this. You visualize at the base of your throat a lit candle. So think at the base of your throat, there's a little lit candle and you can see the candlelight coming out. And so that light represents the light of awareness. So as you're falling asleep, visualize that candle at the base of your throat with the light flickering and know that as you fall asleep, it's going to bring the light of awareness into your mind and you'll become lucidly aware. And I'll tell you, the first time I did that and I became lucidly aware, I was just like blown away. But this is an ancient technique, and also later it's been brought into Buddhism and to dream yoga. They ask you to imagine a red lotus flower at the base of your neck with a white A or Ah there, and that white Ah is connected with awareness and will help you become lucidly aware. But I think for a lot of us, just imagining a candle, it's the same thing. It's about bringing the light of awareness at the base of your throat, bringing that thought that's the final thing you think as you're falling asleep. And then you're much more likely to become lucidly aware, because some people are really visual. I mean, some people, the power of suggestion, they're so verbal, the power of suggestion, that'll do it. Tonight, my dreams, I'll be more critically aware. And when they see something strange, I'll realize I'm dreaming. You know, the power of suggestion works for those folks. Other people, really visual, so they have to use a technique like this, visualizing the light of awareness at the base of your throat. But that's why I have about a dozen different techniques in my books, just because I know there's different types of people and they respond to different types of techniques.
Well, fantastic. We've got to wrap this up, but it's been a fantastic time talking to you. This is one of my favorite subjects, and lucidadvice.com is the website. Are you also on Facebook and Twitter as well, right?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook and Twitter, and they can check out my magazine at dreaminglucid.com. And always happy to hear from people, and hope they submit some of their lucid dreams to the magazine.
Fantastic. Thank you again so much for coming on the program. It's been such a blast talking about this, one of my favorite subjects in the world. Tomorrow night, we're going to talk to Howard Storm. We're going to discuss his experience, NDE, where he had an experience with actually going to hell, and he is no longer an atheist. So that's going to be interesting. But go check out the website, Robert Waggoner's website, lucidadvice.com. And don't forget that this show was produced by me and Pacho and Mother Goose Dawn, too. And don't copy without written permission. And music was by Chronox. Main music was by Chronox. Guitar is by Bundy. Other music is by Kevin MacLeod and the Public Domain. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. If you're still listening, stay tuned for the Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable. Good night.
On this program do not necessarily reflect those of the Fringe FM, KTLK Digital Broadcasting, its sponsors, affiliates, or staff. Listener discretion is advised.
Play it again.
I'm not
my John.
tired.